Claudia, do you want to do the roll call? Oh, I'm
Before the
sorry.
opening
No,
statement?
sorry. I'm miss here. Since this is the reorganization night, it falls to me to read the opening statement. This is a regular meeting of the Princeton Zoning Board of Adjustment being held electronically via Zoom on January 25, 2023 at 7:30 p.m. Pursuant to Section 13 of the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of the time and place of this meeting has been given by prominently posting the sunshine notice of the Princeton Zoning Board of Adjustment. Such notice has been placed on the official bulletin board at the Princeton Municipal Complex and by transmitting a copy of the notice, the Princeton Packet, Town Topics, the Times, Trentonian, and by filing a copy with the Clerk of Princeton on January 20, 2023, and has been posted to the municipal website. Claudia, I just have a question which I hate to bring up, but this opening statement says the meeting is on January 24th. Is that what was posted or?
No.
Yeah,
The agenda
okay.
is 20.
It did say 25, very good.
Yes.
Pursuant to the extension of the ongoing state of emergency by Executive Order 292 in accordance with the Emergency Remote Public Meeting Protocol for local public bodies to conduct a public meeting without physical attendance by members of the public, notice that during this extension of state of emergency, all regular and special meetings of the Princeton Zoning Board of Adjustment will be held electronically via Zoom, was transmitted to the Princeton Packet, Town Topics, and the Times, and was filed with the Clerk of Princeton. Such notices have been placed on the official bulletin board of the Princeton Municipal Complex and on the Princeton website, and are to be maintained throughout the year by transmitting a copy of same to the Princeton Packet, Town Topics, the Times, Trentonian, Comcast Media, and by filing a copy thereof with the Clerk of Princeton. Notices have also been placed on all windows, doors of the municipal complex. And now I think you can do the roll call, Claudia.
Ms. Chen?
Here.
Ms. Coulson?
Here.
Mr. Davich?
Here.
Mr. Floyd?
Here.
Mr. Cohen?
Here.
Mr. Shriver?
Here.
Mr. Tenenbaum? Mr. Stein?
Here.
Ms. Donna?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, and now I will call for nominations for chair of the board for this year.
I'd like to nominate Stephen Cohen.
Second.
Second, why don't we, I think we can do this by roll call. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. All righty, then I will hand the meeting over to you now, Steve.
Thank you. Thank you, board members. I appreciate that. I appreciate it. So we have a nomination for vice chair. It would be our next official act. Any nominations?
Steve, does
Yep.
Carver want to do it again? That'd be my
Okay.
nomination.
I'll second it.
I will, thank you.
All right, Claudia, you want to do this again, Karen, with a voice vote?
Oh, sure. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, please say nay. All righty, then we
Thank
now
you.
have our vice chair.
Okay, the next is appointment of an attorney. Again, do I have anyone who'd like to chime in here? I would nominate Karen Casey.
Second.
And again, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay, last but not least, our appointment of a secretary.
Claudia, please. Second.
Next.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Say nay. Alrighty, congratulations, Claudia.
Excellent. Okay, we have two resolutions this evening. Both were in your packet. The first is 25 Birch Avenue. It is case Z 22-248, block 6902, lot 14. Has everybody had an opportunity to review it? And if so, if someone would like to make any comments or a motion, please.
I'll move approval.
Thank you. We
I'll
have a
second
second.
it.
Thank you. Okay, Claudia, can you call the roll, please?
Ms. Chen,
Yes.
Ms. Coulson,
Yes.
Mr. Floyd,
Yes,
Mr. Shriver,
Yes.
Mr. Stein,
yes,
Ms. Donna,
yes,
Chairman Cohen.
Yes,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Our next resolution is case number Z 22-289, 250 Mercer Street, block 10,402, lot 13. 13? I think that's 13. Okay. Again, this has been, the resolution is in your packet. Has everybody had an opportunity to look at it? Are there any comments on it, or would someone like to make a motion?
So moved.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Chen,
Yes.
Coulson,
Yes.
Mr. Floyd,
yes,
Mr. Shriver,
Yes.
Mr. Stein,
Yes.
George,
Oh. Mr.
Yes.
George,
yes,
Ms. Donna,
yes,
Chairman Cohen.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, now we're on to the applications. We have 5 this evening. The first one is case number Z 22-223 Lincoln Court, lots 10 and 14 and 16 to 18 on Van Deventer. It's block 27.04, lot 17, 22, 23, and 70. This is a continuation of our hearing from November. So who is representing the applicant?
I am Mr. Chairman, Chris Tarr.
Thank you. Okay, please begin.
Hey, Steve?
Oh,
do you
wait, one
want
thing,
Derek- Would you
what?
like Derek to present,
Yes.
Derek and Dan Weissman to present? They have an updated or an
Thank you.
amended
Thank you.
memo?
I
Why
do,
don't
but
I'll swear you in tonight, Derek.
1 minute, Karen. This
Sorry?
didn't need to be renoticed, right?
No, it
Correct.
didn't. The board carried it and the applicant did not need to renotice for
Okay,
tonight.
very good. All right.
Derek, I don't know, is Dan gonna testify too, or here you are? Derek and Dan, do you swear or affirm that your testimony this evening will be truthful?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
I'll just highlight some of the revisions the applicant has proposed, and if Dan Dobromilski, he's here as well. If he wants to make any comments, he's welcome to. Regarding the building size and footprint, the applicant has reduced the size of the building by 1.5 feet on the eastern facade, which faces Van Deventer, and the north side of the building, which faces Lincoln Court, and the south side, which faces Nassau Street, have both been reduced by 0.75 feet. This reduces the floor area of the building by 566 feet and reduces the building coverage from 75.9 to 72.9. The FAR is reduced from 1.99 to 1.91. And the reduction on the east-south elevation of the building allows the 3-foot sidewalk to be increased to 4.5 feet. The applicants also revised the window of the bedrooms in the affordable units in response to comments about the lack of windows in those bedrooms. He's reconfigured the floor plan so that each bedroom has an exterior window. And he's also added a powder room to the 3-bedroom affordable unit in response to comments about it only having 1 full bathroom. And previously, there was a variant situation with the distance between windows in reference to section 17A 383, which requires a minimum 10-foot distance between windows in a building and the property line. The revised design has eliminated all the windows on the western facade, which faces the old Triumph Brewery. The proposed plan complies. You had some questions about the fire officials report tonight. We have Joe Novak here with us. I'm sure he'll be called on at the appropriate moment to testify for any questions the board might have. And then the applicant's architect can respond to questions regarding building code issues with voids and the distance from the property line. And finally, regarding covered storage, the applicant has originally proposed covered bike storage within the side yard of 16 Van Deventer, which did require a variance. Required setback is 8 and the proposed setback was 1 foot. The applicant has indicated they have a conforming alternative, which they would present to the board for consideration. And that location would be on the side of 18 Van Deventer. So those are some of the synopsis of the revisions the applicant is proposing tonight. We have our planner here tonight, Dan Dobromilski. He's available for any comments or if he has any comments on this or any questions. And Dan Weissman's here as well for any questions anyone might have. So
Thank you.
if you have any questions for me, otherwise if Dan Dobromilski wants to say anything.
Dan, we'll just swear you in. Do you swear affirm your testimony this evening will be truthful?
Yes, I do. Dan
Thank you.
Dobromilski, planner for the zoning board tonight. I don't have anything to add at this point. I think it's just a matter of whether the applicant is going to present the plans and offer any updated planning testimony based upon the modifications of the plans.
Okay.
Steve, Mr. Floyd has his
Yeah,
Michael?
yeah, I have a question for Derek. It's pretty basic. After the meeting, I saw in the land use code, and I think it's for all zones, but I was looking specifically CB zone, 17A-310-1 that deals with windows. And could you or Miss Casey, and of course, Mr. Patara can chime in. It says windows, if it's still applicable, part of the code, that windows must be in living room, every living room and sleeping room.
I'm gonna have to look at the code, Dan, or Michael, and swing back on that.
Because it may in fact cause a problem if it's applicable. Because I don't think the living rooms and the affordables now have windows, but that can be discussed later.
All right, thank you. I'll look in, let me get back to you. Thank you.
Yes.
Steve, do you want to hear from Mr. Novak now, the fire official?
Well,
Or,
Yes, I'd like to hear, we can do that now and then,
We could put up the slides with the building if that helps, Mr. Chairman. We were assuming we could stop there and have a look at the building with the board.
that's fine, no problem.
Claudia, we've got in addition to Daniel Barsky, who's here, Jim Kamalik and Dan Ward may be still in the audience and not elevated. Do you see them? Here's Jim. And there's Dan. Thank you very much. Karen,
Yeah,
all three of them were sworn,
absolutely.
they were sworn the last time?
Well, we'll just swear everybody in again.
Sure.
Mr.
And-
Barsky, Mr. Chmalik, and Mr. Ward. We can't see you, Mr. Ward. You can put your video on. Well, we'll swear in Mr. Barsky and Mr. Chmalik for now. Do you swear affirm your testimony this evening will be truthful?
I do.
Thank you.
Karen, it's Chris Tarr. I'm also
Yeah.
going to make some comments about one of the slides, so perhaps I should be sworn in as well. And maybe Mr. Novak could be sworn in with me and Dan.
Well, we'll swear Mr. Novak and Chris, why don't we, we'll take your comments to be, informational, but not really testimony, because I kind of think attorneys shouldn't be testifying, so
There's
I think
Dan.
that'll be fine.
Yep.
Mr. Novak, do you swear affirm that your testimony this evening will be truthful?
I do.
Thank you.
And Dan Ward has popped up there for the.
There you are, Dan. Do you swear or affirm your testimony this evening will be truthful?
I do.
Thank you.
You'll recall that last time Daniel had a slide presentation. What he's done is to take some of the slides to remind us all of the nature of the application, but then some new slides to show the changes that have been made. So we marked the last set of slides, applicant 1 or A1.
A1, yeah.
Karen, if the new one could be marked as A2 to differentiate it, we could do it that way.
Okay, that's fine.
Daniel, you've been sworn and you're ready with your slideshow.
Okay. Good evening, board members. My name is Daniel Barsky, and like Chris mentioned, I'll be doing a presentation, PowerPoint presentation for what we're calling the Lincoln Court project. Some of the slides, like Chris mentioned, will be the same, and some to elaborate on some of the changes we've made. Just to get acquainted once again with where the building is located, it's actually a combination of 4 properties, 16 and 18 Van Devender Avenue, which fronts on Van Devender in the conventional sense, and 10 and 14 and a half Van Devender, which is accessed from a dead-end street called Lincoln Court. To get to Lincoln Court, you would go down 2-lane street, past the Princeton Record Exchange, and there's this small street called Lincoln Court, which dead ends. At the end of the dead end is 10 and 14 and a half Van Devender Avenue. This is looking down from 2-lane, down Lincoln Court towards the dead end. You can see the rear of the Triumph building, and a little further in the distance to the right, the gray building is the existing 2-family at 10 and 14 and a half Van Devender. This is as you're walking up to the dead end of Lincoln Court. Here's as you're getting closer to the existing building at 10 and 14 and a half. And right across the street, right across Lincoln Court, is the rear of the Nelson Glass building. Just a few years ago, they were in with the application with some variances revolving their project, and it was recently constructed and occupied earlier or late last year. Going back down Lincoln Court, in the distance, the beige building is the rear of 16 and 18 Van Devender and the existing parking lot that is currently there. And this is the front of 16 and 18 Van Devender. Currently, there's 3 apartments and a psychiatrist's office that reside here. And last time I showed you guys a bunch of slides of the damage and disrepair at 1618. I'm just going to show you one today, just as a reminder that 16 and 18 does need significant work, and part of our proposal is to restore and save 1618 Van Divender, try to bring some life back into the building because it's been for many years not maintained and not managed well. So just something to keep in mind as we move forward. And just backing up, this is at the very dead end of the alleyway of the Lincoln Court. There is a alleyway down the side of 16 Van Divender, and the proposal is to improve this walkway by putting down brick pavers, widening it, and then giving an easement to Princeton, a dedicated walkway for the town. It results in a public pathway which extends from Chambers all the way to Van Divender. So in yellow is an existing path that cuts through the middle of town. And at the bottom of the screen, the last red line is the proposed dedicated walkway to connect this whole area together. So this isn't a graphic that I showed last time, but we do know that Princeton does put a big emphasis on walkability and bicycling in town, and we feel that this is a big benefit to the town. Currently, we've noticed a lot of people do cut through here. I mean, at the moment, it's private property. We're hoping with your guys' approval that we'll be able to formalize this, make it hardscape it and make it part of the connectivity of downtown. In November, we were in front of HPC. HPC was unanimous in recommending to your board approval of this application. And I'm just quoting some of the items off of the report. One of them is this new apartment structure represents an appropriate intensity of development. 16 and 18 Van Divender Avenue will be substantially improved. The pedestrian alleyway is an improvement to pedestrian circulation, and the new apartment building will not be disruptive of the integrity and authenticity of other structures adjacent to Lincoln Court. And I think as I testify further in the presentation, hopefully some of these points come to light. So some of the changes that we made to the application since the November meeting is the apartment building was reduced in size. The sidewalks around the building increased in width. Windows were removed from the side facing Triumph Brewery, and the affordable unit layouts were revised, and a bathroom was added. And I will go into more detail about this as we go further. So this is an exhibit, a site plan exhibit that I did share in the November meeting. So just quickly to overview, shaded in yellow is the proposed 10-unit apartment building, where is proposed 8 market units and 2 affordable units. The major change is the reduction in the footprint of 1.5 feet total on the east and south sides, and I'll talk about that on the next slide. 16 and 18 Van Divender, which is colored in pink, is to be restored and converted back to its intended 2-family use. Currently, again, there's 3 apartments and a psychiatrist's office. The existing parking lot in the rear of 1618 would be reconfigured to service the 10-unit apartment building. And in purple, this shaded area in purple is an element of open space to be implemented as a courtyard. Of course, I already presented slides about the benefit of the dedicated walkway, which is outlined in brown, and its benefit towards the town's goal of walkability. Finally, bicycle storage is split between storage in the interior of the 10-unit apartment building and exterior bicycle storage along the proposed walkway. And there's more to come with the bicycle storage. So focusing in on the 10-unit apartment building, we did reduce on the two sides of the building, the footprint by 1.5 feet. In result, the building was reduced by 566 square feet. The coverage was also reduced. They still are variance requests, but not to the same extent. The biggest result was that the increase by reducing the footprint of the building, we have increased distances between the building and the property lines. So from the rear exit of the 10-unit apartment building, on the wall parallel to Triumph, you have 6.1 feet of space. And on the walkway that runs parallel to Nassau Street, you have 4.5 feet of space where there used to be 3 feet proposed at the short end, and 6 foot 2 inches on the wide end, just because of the way the building is skewed. And on the walkway coming around the other side of the building that runs parallel to Van Divender, 4.5 feet is now proposed where 3 feet was proposed previously. Another change we made was all the elevations stayed the same, except the west elevation that butts up to Triumph. We removed the windows to comply with section 10383 that came up at the last meeting. As Derek testified, we are in compliance now. Previously there was, I believe, 6 small windows for the kitchens, but those were removed to comply with this ordinance. Another concern we heard from the board members was from a building code standpoint, the distance between the voids or openings, windows in the building to the property lines. My architect, Dan Ward, provided me this chart, which is section 705.8 of the New Jersey Building Code. Maximum area of exterior wall openings based on fire separation distance and degree of opening fire protection. Highlighted in yellow is the category we fall in, 3 to less than 5 feet away. We're unprotected but sprinklered building, and we're allowed 15% of voids or windows, and we do comply with that building code. We do comply with that building code. We also did make changes to the layout of the affordable units. So one of the concerns that we heard was that while the original design did comply with building code, it just wasn't ideal. So we rearranged the affordable units so that each bedroom does have a window directly out to the exterior. They're highlighted in these yellow rectangles. Another comment we heard was that for the 3-bedroom apartment, that perhaps 1 bathroom may not be enough. So we did add an additional half bath that's outlined in the yellow oval. It is beyond the requirement, but it's something that we heard the board would like, and so we did add that feature. These slides I did show in the previous presentation, but as a reminder for scaling and mass of the building, and also going to HBC's memo, the building is similar in size and scope to the surrounding buildings in the area, certainly in the CB district altogether, but just in the immediate area, Triumph right next door, Nelson Glass across the street, 12th and 14 Van Divender. The building fits in with the other buildings in the close vicinity. This illustration here shows Triumph next door. Triumph is a taller building. It takes up 100% of the lot, and much higher in FAR. But either way, as far as massing is concerned, it is appropriate, we believe, in this location. More importantly, my architect, Dan Ward, prepared this exhibit with sight lines. Because of this kind of tucked in odd location of the building, it's not visible from any main roads. And so you can see here that from Tulane or from Van Divender, you just really can't see the building. And you can kind of see from this exhibit too, because of the topography, it actually sits lower than most of these buildings as well. Last time we weren't able to go into detail about kind of technical site plan stuff. So just quickly for to review the landscape plan. The property is located in a downtown urban environment, but includes new landscape elements as part of the plan. Evergreen trees and native shrubs are to be planted around the parking area for screening. Proposed are foundation plantings along the front of the 10-unit apartment building with a new shade tree along the sidewalk. And an assortment of ground covers are proposed as well, including lyrope grasses in key areas. At the last November meeting, we heard from neighbors, and I don't think we heard anyone in opposition, but we did hear one comment about what would happen with the existing landscaping in front of 16 and 18. I've attached a picture here on the slide to show you what it looks like now, and that's the way it is to remain. The only kind of work that we'd be doing in 16, 18 is fixing up exterior damage and remodeling interior, but all the landscaping is to remain on 16 and 18 as you see it here. For the lighting plan, I've included this from the site plan. For the 10-unit apartment building, we're proposing down lighting to comply with the light spillage ordinance. And around the parking lot, we're proposing 3.5-foot high square louvered bollards. So they're low level lighting. So it's not like a big high post out of the ground that could spill into and disrupt a neighbor. And they look like this. Here are specs for them. On the left is an LED recessed light, the type of lights we'd be using on the apartment building. And on the right is this low level louvered bollard, provides enough light so that the parking lot is safe and accessible, but doesn't disrupt neighbors and meets with the ordinance. We are still seeking a variance and relief for parking. In total, 15 spaces are required, and we're providing actually 14, not says here on this chart 13, but with the EV credit, we're providing 14 spaces. So we're only one space short. We're also seeking a variance for 3 compact spaces where 1 stall is permitted. And we feel that the parking variances have merit considering the location of the building. We're 1 space short for the parking stalls, and we anticipate that 1 or 2 of the tenants may have no cars at all. The other tenants with a car, they're likely to have compact cars considering the type of rental units that they're going to be seeking. And the municipal traffic engineer, McMahon, agrees, and this is in his report from November, and I'll just read it quickly. Since the number of proposed parking spaces exceeds the expected parking demand by 6 spaces, and the neighborhood characteristics contribute to reduced vehicular traffic, we recommend the board consider granting the variance for number of parking spaces. In our experience with other downtown rentals, this is accurate. We know Nelson Glass, and maybe Chris will talk more to this at the end of the presentation. Nelson Glass across the street had 6 or 7 variances regarding parking. They were short, multiple parking spaces, stacked parking, width of parking stalls. We tried to make our parking lot, reconfigure parking lot conforming and safe, and it's very close to the amount required by the ordinance, but in all reality, exceed the demand for a property in this location. The last variance in regards to parking is on 18 Van Divender. There's currently an existing driveway to access the existing parking lot in the rear of 16 and 18. The driveway is proposed to be cut off because now the tenants would be accessing the parking lot from Lincoln Court. And the driveway would turn into 2 parking spaces for 18 Van Divender. Currently, the driveway is 2 feet away. It's a pre-existing nonconformity. So it's going to stay that way. We're not going to exacerbate the 2 feet, but it is a pre-existing nonconformity and still a variance. And just talk about bicycle storage. 14 total spaces are required. We're proposing that 7 of those spaces would go inside the 10-unit apartment building under the common staircase on the first floor. The remainder are proposed along the dedicated walkway abutting 16 Van Divender. At our last meeting, Derek mentioned that covering these bicycles with some type of awning may trigger a variance, and it does. It triggers a side yard setback variance because the covered awning would encroach into the setback from the property line. So in this illustration, 16 Van Divender, the footprint is outlined in green. It's actually currently the footprint already falls over the setback requirement. It's 6 foot. It's 6 foot 9 inches away. The blue line illustrates the end of the bicycle canopy, which is 1 foot from the property line of 16 Van Divender. But looking at this project as a whole, including the 4-foot walkway, which is owned by the applicant, the end of the bike covering is 5 feet away from the closest neighbor, who currently has a 6-foot fence. So, we do feel that this is the appropriate place for bicycles to go, and that's why we are seeking variance to have them covered here. Alternatively, they can be uncovered, and that's probably a different type of variance, not a side yard, but maybe uncovered bicycle variance. There are 7 covered bicycle spaces inside, but there is a alternate location. This is the proposed parking lot in the rear of 1618, and the yellow dashed lines is an area where we can put a prefab bicycle canopy storage that would be conforming, wouldn't require any type of variances. We don't feel that this is the best location. That's why we proposed it with a variance. You would have to pull your bike along the side of the parking lot and then, down the drive aisle. We're open to discussion with the board on how they think to best deal with the bicycle storage. These are the same staff comments I went over at the last meeting. We're saying okay to all the staff comments and the municipal professionals' comments. So I'm not going to go over them in detail again. We are agreeing to all of them. There was a couple of questions. One of them was applicant should clarify the material to be used for each pedestrian walkway. So there are 2 wings that go out to Van Divender. The one along 16 Van Divender is the one that we're proposing to dedicate and put brick pavers down for the public. This little wing on the other side would just remain crushed stone. We're agreeing to all the comments here and agreeing to all the comments here, but to clarify one item, there was a question about trash and recycling. So we're proposing 11 cans, 7 for trash, 4 for recycling, and to hire a private hauler to pick up trash twice a week for the use of the building. And the last part of the presentation is in regards to FAR. I'm going to ask Chris to kind of go through these slides, and Chris, you just let me know when you want me to click to the next slide.
Sure. So we're talking about the apartment building, which is obviously located in the CB zone. And as both Derek and Daniel have told you, this revised plan shows an FAR of 1.91 and coverage of 72.9. Can you go ahead, Daniel? one of the ordinances that we showed you last time applies to a developer who includes affordable housing within the proposed building. And the applicant may request, and Daniel has requested, that you grant him additional incentives because he's provided two affordable housing units. And those incentives, according to the ordinance, include increased density or reduction in off-street parking spaces, both of which he's sought here. Next slide, Daniel. So this aerial takes the applicant's property, which is in the middle among the other boxes. And just to make the point that the Triumph building has an FAR of 2.9. It's obviously pre-existing. It's a very old building. Nelson Glass's new building, as Daniel has testified, sought variances for coverage and numerous variances regarding parking. And the third of the three, Daniel also testified last time that 1214 Van Deventer sought variances for both FAR and parking and received them as it renovated its building. It interests me that what you see all the way to the left of this slide is the shadow in Tulane of the very large building at 35 Spring, which has an FAR of 5.94. I'm going to note that, as I know, a number of us participated last Saturday in the Princeton Futures presentation of the seminar at the library. Rich Ryan talked at great length about densities, and most particularly about the densities in the CBD. By his calculation, the average density in the CBD is somewhere between 3.4 and 3.6. I think I'm quoting him directly when he said, quote, if an applicant proposed a building in the CBD at 1.5 FAR, it would look out of place, unquote. Next slide, Daniel. So I want to thank the folks, Josh Zinder in particular, and the folks from the Graduate Hotel. And you may recognize this slide. The Graduate Hotel came before you in December of 2020 with an application for an increase in FAR where the existing building's FAR was 2.65, and they were requesting an FAR from you of 3.62, which you granted. The only thing I've added to this slide is a small star that you see in the middle of the slide, which is where Daniel's building is located. Next slide. What Josh did was to show you the FAR of all of the buildings in the CB zone. The buildings in white are at the conforming 1.5 or below, and the buildings in orange all exceed the 1.5. By way of reminder, we're seeking 1.9, and all of these buildings were in that range or higher. Next slide. What Josh then did was to take it even further. The white remained those buildings with an FAR of 1.5 or below. Then the light yellow was 1.5 to 2, and we're on up 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and some buildings have an FAR of over 4. Most particularly in our neighborhood, that 35 Spring Street with D'Angelo's Market is at 5.94. Next slide. So again, to come back to that ordinance, for the production of affordable housing, there should be increased density permitted by the board, saying it, just making it even more clear. The next slide. So what Daniel has done, he's asked for increased density because he's produced affordable housing. His proposal is a building of 13,789 square feet, where the permitted FAR is 10,819 square feet. In other words, his building is non-compliant by 2,970 square feet. But of that amount, the affordable units and the hallways attributable to them amount to 2,705 feet. So that the increase for anything above and beyond the affordable units is 265 square feet. Next slide. To try to make the point, if you could build 10,000 feet on this lot in conforming fashion, one could build townhomes or apartments, say 4 apartments of 2,500 square feet each, and would have to provide no affordable units. So he's asking for a building that's 2,900 feet bigger, but providing affordable units which take up virtually all of that additional space. And lastly, then, let me summarize the variances that we're seeking. The FAR for the apartment building of 1.91, building coverage for the apartment building of 72.9%. 9 spaces where 14 are required. And this is somewhat confusing because you get a credit for a space and there are spaces out front. He is in essence one space short. 3 compact car spaces where 1 is permitted. At 18 Van Deventer, a 2-foot driveway that's 2 feet setback from the side where 3 feet is required. Impervious cover at 16 Van Deventer, 88%. And a side yard setback for that bicycle rack cover, which is 5 feet from the neighbor's property line where 8 feet is required. Mr. Chairman, I know that we wanted Mr. Novak to speak to the question of fire safety, and we finished the basic presentation. I'd be happy to deal with that and also the other questions which board members have.
Fine. I do have one question of Mr. Barsky first. What do you classify the 6 units on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floor as? Are they 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms?
3 bedrooms with the office.
Okay, so the office is on the 1st floor or the top floor?
It's on the 1st floor.
Okay,
It's on the 1st floor of that unit.
of that unit, yes.
Yes, correct.
So it's the study.
That's what we're calling it, yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, yeah, Mr. Tar, board members, do you have any other questions of Mr. Barsky right now or Mr. Tar?
Yes.
Okay. Donna?
Can I ask my question?
Sure,
Okay, thanks. For Mr. Barsky, the size of the affordable units, has that changed at all? I know last time it was, I think, 825 square feet for the 2-bedroom, 932 square feet for the 3-bedroom. Any change in size for them?
No, if anything, they've gotten bigger. Because we had to add a half bathroom to the one and do some rearranging. The 1.5 feet we lost them most out of the market units.
Okay, so what is then the square footage of the market units at this point?
I don't have that calculation with me, but I can pull that up.
Mr. Ward, do you have it?
I do not.
If you give me a minute, I can figure that out.
Thank you.
I believe they're approximately 1,600 square feet. You know, Dan and I would need to verify that on a CAD drawing, but
So
the-
there are the two other apartments, market apartments on the first floor, so that they need to
They're
differentiate.
smaller. They're smaller.
Just to
I
make
mean, I would,
clear.
yeah, I'm talking about the units upstairs, but
I
I would need
understand.
some time. Yeah, I would need some time to pull that together.
So all the apartments on the first floor are affordables.
No, there's two
No.
market, there's two market units and two affordable units.
Okay.
You know, and we've taken some care into redesigning them
Two
from.
market,
Mhm.
two
Yeah.
I have the areas for the affordable units if you want them.
Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
The two bedroom is 814 square feet. And the 3-bedroom is 958 square feet.
Okay. So the 2-bedroom lost a little bit and the 3-bedroom gained a little bit. Okay. Thank you.
Welcome. Anything else, Donna?
No, thanks.
Anyone else have any questions?
I have
Right.
just a bookkeeping question. Mr. Tar, at our last hearing, there were a number of slides which Mr. Barsky didn't present. It was simply on a list of, I guess, identified slides that was provided to me. Is he going to go through those, or can we just assume that they're not needed for tonight? I think it was slide 62 through 77.
Yeah, I think those were supplemental slides. We always put something behind what we call the question slide for if the board were to ask questions. So we did not present those, and we could just mark those as not having been presented.
Okay, and then for tonight, we have some of those, so I guess we'll wait and see if you.
Yeah,
end
same
up
thing.
using
After the
those.
question slide, if somebody were to ask a question about a particular item, we hope we have a slide that responds to it.
Okay, and then the only other thing for our side is I just want to mark the updated memo that Derek and then Weissman presented. That's ZB-8 for us. And that's all the questions I have.
Yeah. So, Mr. Chairman, again, we're finished. We are aware that Mr. Novak was going to be asked to comment. We could
Yes.
put the floor plans back up or the elevation plans, whichever he.
I'm going to
would-
ask one more question, then I definitely want to hear from Mr. Novak.
Thank you.
Again, I guess this would be a question for the architect. Right now, the first floor, which has a study, has got a full bathroom. The second floor and the second floor has 2 bedrooms with attached bathrooms. And the third floor, which is actually the 4th floor, has a bedroom, but no bathroom. And the full bathroom is on the first floor. I'm just, what I'm getting to, it appears to me that these are 4-bedroom units with a slight change in the location of a doorway on the second floor into one of the bedrooms. It allows a bathroom to be accessed from the hall. I'm just trying to get a clarification because it just looks to me that these are 4-bedroom units rather than 3-bedroom units, but that's your decision, obviously, just making a comment. And so with that said, Mr. Tar, do you want to ask Mr. Novak to speak?
Well, of course, he's a municipal employee. Daniel, why don't you put up the building plans, whichever one Mr. Novak would like to comment on?
Mr. Novak, thank you for coming today, by the way. We appreciate it.
Of course.
Mr. Novak, before you begin answering questions or making presentation, just to confirm, you are the municipal fire official, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and you reviewed the this application that the board has before it tonight and looked at their site plan, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So I believe at the last meeting, the board had some questions about your conclusion that you didn't have any concerns, I guess, about fire, the ability to fight a fire on the scene, access for fire vehicles, et cetera. And I don't want to put words in the board's mouth. So if anybody wants to rephrase that question, then they should do that. But I think that's what the board was concerned about.
You were correct, Karen, at least
Okay.
from my standpoint.
Okay, and Mr. Cohen, and the board, I greatly appreciate you all taking the fire department into account when you're looking at these items, because that's not true in every town. So we greatly appreciate that. I have been back there on Lincoln Court. We actually had an issue when the Nelson Glass building was being built. There were some low-hanging wires that were Verizon and some electric wires to the old Triumph building that needed to be fixed in order for us to actually gain access to the back of that building. So while doing the plan review for this building and going back there and seeing what was actually going on, we actually identified some issues that needed to be addressed and were. So that being said, we did, after that repair occurred, we actually did take our ladder truck down there and confirm that it does fit and would be able to set up on Lincoln Court. We also looked at a property to the east coming in.
Did we lose
Is
Mr.
the sound,
Novak?
I think sound is going off. I can't hear
Yeah.
Mr. Novak.
Novak?
Building.
Mr. Novak, we lost you there for a minute.
Yeah,
Can you start again, please?
I'm sorry. That's okay. How far did you get? Did you get?
We got to the ladder truck and the property behind.
Okay. Yeah, so we would actually be able to access from Lincoln Court, and then also from 12 to 14 Van Deventer, being able to back the ladder truck down that access to the parking lot that would be shared along that eastern side of the building to gain any access for ladders there. The other thing that is comforting from our side of things is that this is going to be a fully suppressed building, which, obviously would help, God forbid there is a fire, keep it in check to the point that we can get there and make sure it's out. So I don't, although I'm not the fire subcode official, so I'm not the guy that's going to be reviewing the sprinkler plans themselves. That would be done by our building department. Just knowing that the building is suppressed helps us out a great deal. It puts us in a position where it'll hold the fire in check until we get there, and even in most cases put it out.
Mhm. So you're relying on 12 to 14 to gain access from Van Deventer. Now, 12 to 14 is not owned by the applicant. Is that
And
right?
that's true for a lot of the town, though. There
Oh,
are a
no,
lot
you're
of-
not gonna ask permission with a fire truck. I
Yeah.
understand that. And that's good, right?
Yeah. So we, and then looking at the tactics, and honestly, our first approach would be off of Lincoln Court anyway.
Of course.
If it got to a point where it was that bad, which again, with it being suppressed, the likelihood of that is fairly low. But we would be able to access from Van Deventer as well. I did have one question actually for Mr. Barsky. Dan, do you know where the closest fire hydrant is to that building?
Jim, can you jump in real quick on this one?
Yeah, I believe it's at the corner of Spring and Van Deventer,
Okay.
right there, next to like one block down, one unit down from 18.
Okay.
Corner of Spring and Van Deventer.
So that may be something that we have to review with the fire subcode official too, because it there's a code that got passed within the past year that actually requires a fire hydrant to be within 50 feet of a fire department connection. So, you know, I know you guys are bringing in a fire line for this building.
Right.
So we may be able to just poke a hydrant off that line to suffice that. But again, that would be something that Vic would need to weigh in on.
And there's also a second hydrant at the corner of Van Deventer and Nassau. So you're, you know, up on top of the hill, closer to 1214 Van Deventer. So you have one at the bottom of the hill and one near the top of the hill.
If I'm not mistaken, there's one, isn't there one at the corner of South Tulane as well?
There's one on South Tulane and Spring, and that could probably be hosed, you know, between those buildings. Near Nelson Glass, there's a break there, so that there is some accessibility from a third hydrant at that location. You're right.
Gotcha. Yes. Do you know what, I didn't notice in any of the drawings where they are actually planning to bring the water in from? Do you know where they're actually planning to pull the water from?
Yeah, so I had conversations with the water company and they like to bring it down one of these wings of Van Deventer.
It would be at this point under the common pedestrian walkway.
Gotcha. And that's a main extension they're looking to do?
They can do it a couple different ways, they said, Jim. They can do it as a main extension, or they can bring in a 2-inch service because for fire and domestic, because the main's big enough on Van Deventer.
Okay. So we should probably hook up at some point, just talk about that, because it may be worth doing a main extension just to the end of Lincoln Court to provide a hydrant that would actually help us in that whole section, not just your building, but and would help suffice the 50-foot requirement. So we can take a look at that and get Vic involved with that conversation.
Sure.
I have just a curiosity question, Mr. Novak. That one lot to the east of the building is a parking lot. In fact, if that's filled with cars, how do you get in there? And what about if Lincoln Court has parking on it? How would you get in there?
So the parking lot at 12 to 14 does have parking along the fence there. We would just stop short of that and shoot the ladder over top of their cars anyway. We wouldn't want to be that close because there's collapse zones and things like that we would want to be staying out of with the ladder anyway. And then Lincoln Court, I've never been down there where there's I'm not even sure that there's parking permitted on both sides of Lincoln Court. But that's something we have to visit by ordinance to just make sure that there's a lane maintained to get back there.
I think the only thing that happens on Lincoln Court, I don't think that you're right. I don't think there is any parking, but service trucks to get off of Tulane and sometimes park in there. And again, that was also the access to Triumph Brewing, Panera, which is now vacant, which could be leased one day.
Yep. Yeah, so that would be something we'd have to work with on a code enforcement end. But
yeah. you're comfortable in being able to access the building with fire trucks?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And again, I really appreciate you guys thinking of us and taking us into account because, like I said, it's not like that everywhere, and it really does help out.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I appreciate you coming here and giving us your comments.
Mr. Novak, could I ask one other thing? I don't.
Absolutely.
This
It's
is.
gonna cost you 50 cents though.
This is not your. This is not your. I'm just wondering if you have any insight into other kinds of emergency vehicles, which would be smaller, but would have different issues, like, you know, somebody who needed to be taken out in a stretcher or something. What if there's obstruction or something. I mean, you wouldn't do that by way of a ladder. Do you feel like that's not, what do you think about that?
Yeah, so we actually help EMS out quite a bit. So I've personally seen an ambulance back there several times. I don't see that as being an issue. Their trucks are obviously a little smaller than ours and a little more maneuverable, but yeah, I don't see that as a concern.
Okay, good.
Okay, any board members have any questions for Mr. Novak? Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Would
I
you
hate
like me to
to-
stay on a little longer or?
If you don't mind, in case.
Absolutely.
And if we go to executive session, board members might have a question for you. So if you can, please.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Board members, well, first, Mr. Tar, do you have any other witnesses?
No,
Okay. So, board members, do you have any questions for any of the witnesses to date? Okay, so, Mr. Tar, we're going to open
Chris?
this up. I'm sorry, who is that?
No, I just wanted to respond to Michael Floyd's question regarding the windows in the bedrooms and living rooms. That section of code does require bedrooms in both living rooms and bedrooms. So the bedroom issue has been complied with, but the living room issue now requires a window or a variance.
Yeah, the window in the 3-bedroom has been eliminated. And so, yes, according to the plan, there's no windows in the living room. I guess, Mr. Ward, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, we would love to be able to put a window in that living room, but that ordinance provision, what is it, 383, compelled us to take it out. Unless I guess you can grant us a variance to that.
Well, I guess the question is going to be, it would seem to me that you almost have to put a window in there. I mean, you don't have, so I guess at this point, would you like Mr. Barsky, Mr. Tar, do you want to request a variance for that?
of course, in 2 respects. First of all, the notice that we put out said that it's such other relief as the board might grant. And the umbrella provision with respect to the provision of affordable units, that the ordinance says that some leeway should be given to the applicant for providing those units. So whether it's just a general request or a very specific request from the affordable housing ordinance, we would ask for that relief.
Mhm. Okay. Thank you. All right, so, Derek, do you have any other thing you'd like to say?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Can you stop this screen sharing? Thank you.
Okay, so, Mr. Tar, if do you want to make any comments before we open this to the public?
No, perhaps after, if there's some comment that came up then.
Sure. Okay, hearing no additional comments, I'm going to open the public portion of the hearing. Claudia, has anybody indicated that they want to speak to this application?
Yes.
Okay. Can you let them in?
Tina?
Is that Ms. Clement that you're trying to bring in?
Yes, she's there.
I think I'm here.
We just can't see you. You could put
I
the
don't know how
video-
to get there. I'm lucky I'm here. First of all, Dan, I applaud you
Whoa,
on what
whoa,
you're.
whoa, 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 Ms. Clement, we need to see you.
really?
You gotta swear you in, so,
How do you see me?
Start video. There's a
Um,
button on the bottom that says.
Okay, hold on, I'll get there. Share screen?
No,
No,
over on the left, start
Uh,
video.
Next to the audio.
Oh, sorry, I got it. I think.
Yep, you got it. You got it.
okay,
Am I here?
Yep.
yeah,
Okay.
all right.
Okay.
Ms. Clement, could you just give us your address again?
Sure, on 13 Vandeventer Avenue.
All right, and do you swear or affirm any testimony you give this evening will be truthful?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay, Dan, first of all, I applaud your diligence in what you're doing. I really support your care in the neighborhood. So my one probably silly minor request is the streetscape at 1618 Vandeventer, the bike rack with a shed. Are you going to put greenery in front of that so Vandeventer doesn't see the bike rack? Hi, can you hear me?
yeah, I hear you. I'm processing. That's something I can, that's something I can certainly explore with my engineer if we can do some type of screening there. Maybe it's like some type of sidewall to the structure instead of just an awning, or maybe it's some type of preferably green, like some type of planting. But that's certainly something we can look into and try to accommodate. I think it makes sense.
I mean, we want to try to keep Vandeventer Avenue as an avenue, so to speak.
Mhm.
And a shed over a bike rack to me is not real attractive. I'm sure you're going to make it attractive, but if you could put some kind of greenery at the end of that driveway, it would help embellish it, especially with your walkway and all, to make it more inviting. So that's my major comment. I just, you know, Mr. Powell on 1214 Vandeventer at the end of his driveway planted this beautiful pine tree, and I don't know if it's an oak or a maple, but it certainly hid the Spring Street apartments and that area and enhances our street. So that's what I'm asking, if you can do something along those lines for, you know, it's very self-serving because my porch looks right down that driveway. So, but I also think it would be a very positive venue for the street, not to look at a bicycle shed.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can definitely accommodate, and I can go through more detail with my engineer Jim on. I believe we have some room in front to do some type of green screening there.
Yeah, okay. I would greatly appreciate it. And I really applaud your due diligence in this. And I look forward to you being a neighbor or somebody being a neighbor.
Thank you.
So thank you. Okay, I'm done.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Okay. I don't know where to get, I don't know how to get out of here. Where am I? I'm not sure where I am.
Okay, you just actually mute, and if you want to stay and listen, you can do that. You don't have to be on screen if you don't want.
I don't care. Now I've sort of left everywhere. I can't see anybody, but I think you got my message. And again, I applaud you and I thank you very much. So I'm going to say good night.
Good night. Okay, Claudia, did anyone else indicate that they would like to speak?
There are no more hands.
Thank you. Okay, hearing no more comments or no more people indicating they want to speak, I will close the public portion of the hearing. And Mr. Tar, before we go into executive session, do you want to make any comments?
Just this, the largest variances involved are the FAR and the coverage. I think in November, you had extensive planning testimony from Mr. Kamalik. This evening, I just tried to summarize way back at the very beginning. We put in our application materials that we knew that the majority of buildings in the CBD were much larger than the one that we're proposing, but we didn't have the data. And I think we were properly instructed to make sure we had the data. So we had it. The Graduate Hotel did a wonderful job compiling it. The other variances are minor and explicable. I think having the bike rack next to the walkway, it makes a whole lot more sense than having it over on the other side by the parking lot. Daniel shrank up the building and added the bathrooms. And so we tried to accommodate as best he can the comments and suggestions that have been made. We took notes. I know a number of you thought it was a worthwhile project, and I certainly hope you continue to feel that way.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We'll go into executive session now and comments, questions from the board, or let's discuss this.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr.
Steve?
Floyd.
If I could ask a question of the applicant.
Sure.
Regarding the kitchen area, is that possibly going to be vented? I asked that. I asked that because, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, finish, sorry.
Yeah, I asked that with there being, no windows in the living room, which really flows into the kitchen. I was wondering if the kitchen was being designed to be vented or not, just a question.
Yeah, so the intention is to have a hood that's direct vent outside. So the answer is yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Anything else, Michael?
No, that was, I'm obviously on the issue of the window, and of venting to the outside would, I think, help.
Oh, help
Given the layout.
immensely. I'm not sure. I mean, the window in the living room was a very good idea. And quite frankly, I'd support a variance to allow a window. Based on the floor area, I think the window may not provide all the light and air that you need per code, but venting would take care of it. So the venting is a very good comment. Any other board members have any questions? Okay, I do have a couple of comments. Let me preface it by saying I like the project. I think housing downtown is a great idea. I think the inclusion of affordable units is commendable. My concern is, and I understand that what is allowable by ordinance is only slightly smaller than the requests that have been asked for variances for, both coverage and FAR. My concern on this is just the access to the site. This building has the potential to have a population of, I don't know, anywhere between 48 and 60 people based on the bedrooms. And it's just, I think it's, I agree. Mr. Novak's comments are very important to this. If he's comfortable with this, then I think we all should be comfortable with it. My personal feeling is the building is slightly bigger than on that site than it really should be. It's kind of a weird lot in the central business district. But it's a subdivided lot which has zoning requirements associated with it, and by and large, with the exception of floor area ratio and coverage, they've been met. So those are my concerns. I just get concerned about the limited access to the building. And I like the project. I'd like to see it go forward, but I just those are my concerns. And I've, as an architect, I've done many apartment buildings, and access is always a critical issue from terms of firefighting. Okay, that was my comment. Anybody else like to say anything?
Steve, do you feel strongly enough about that you'd vote no?
Not sure, to be honest with you. I am very concerned about access, and but I do rely on Mr. Novak, you know, for his review of the project and the discussion of how he would actually fight a fire in this case. I get a little concerned about the access through 12 to 14, but it's doable, and there are enough hydrants around to allow for you know, hose support of this. And again, the building will be fully sprinkled, which means the sprinkler system required for this would be everything: closets, bathrooms. It would be a full R13 is the technical term. A full 13 system, which is very comprehensive. So Stephen, I'm not sure, but I do like the project, and I especially like the affordable units. I do have one question for I guess it would be Mr. Barsky. Would the affordable units get any parking?
Yes, okay. Yes.
All right, that's fine. And okay, and you are saying the upper units are in fact 3 bedrooms?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Those are my questions. Any other, I'm sorry.
It's just from our experience with these downtown rentals that most people are only using 2 to 3 bedrooms max, not 4, but want a room for an office. Because a lot of the people renting in like the downtown area are working from home, and our anticipation is most of the tenants will actually use it for an office.
Okay, thank you. Okay, board members, any more discussion of this? I'd like to hear from others
Yeah.
here. Yeah, Bernice?
So about the windows on the west side, and I'm not sure that if this can apply or not, but was it considered by the architect to have or looked into if a water curtain or sprinklers along that side at the windows could address the window openings on that side?
If it was a building code issue, I would say yes, probably we could, but it's a zoning issue that that's compelling us to take those windows out, so.
So if there was a variance for that and something like a water curtain were introduced, it's possible that could.
Well, from a building code point of view, we don't need to do a water curtain or any shutter or anything like that.
No, I mean, Mr. Ward is right. I think I can appreciate Ms. Chen's comment. I mean, she's asking for just a little more protection along that side. That's a very difficult side to get to. And so that would be helpful.
There are no windows in the Triumph Building Company building facing us. So,
but it's an alleyway. Basically, it's your emergency exit from the building. And so potentially there's all sorts of potential. I don't want to elaborate. I mean, something could happen with an opening there that would cause an issue in that alley. So I don't think it's a bad comment. I think it's a good observation.
I have a question. It's
Sure.
yeah, it has to do with the fire access.
George, you gotta increase your volume.
Better?
well, say something.
Yeah, okay, all right. Sorry if
All
I'm
right.
unclear. Right, and it has to do with the fire, possibility of fire. It doesn't deal with access so much as the way to exit. And this comes possibly, as an antique question, but are fire escapes on the exterior of buildings considered reasonable, allowed? Would they make a difference?
So if you want, I can chime in there for you. Because the building's fully suppressed, the requirements for a fire escape would not be deemed necessary. I can tell you from a logistics standpoint that we run into a lot of maintenance issues related to fire escapes and exterior escapes like that, because they're exposed to the weather 365 days a year, and they become not as reliable. So the best case scenario here is that because the building is fully suppressed, the exit way for people to egress the building would be protected in order to let them get out of the building. And that's where there's a common misconception with sprinkler systems is it's not so much designed to put out the fire, even though in 90% of the times where there is a fire that occurs, the sprinkler system does put it out. It's actually just to buy the occupants time to get out of the building and hold the fire in check until a point that we can get there and deem it to be out and make sure that everybody is out of the building.
That brings up, thank you, Mr. Novak. Mr. Ward, are egress windows required here?
We have actually patio doors from our bedrooms onto those balconies. So we've satisfied the egress requirement from bedrooms with those doors.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, and I know it's inappropriate, but I want to ask anyway. We have two egresses, and I was told that only one was required. Am I right or wrong?
Well, I don't know. Mr. Ward?
Mr. Ward?
We have
No,
one,
I think-
we have one stair in the building and a dead end corridor of, I don't know exactly how long, but does that exceed the dead end distance allowed by the code?
No, that all complies. But
Okay.
we do need the two options once we get to the stair. We need to be able to go in two directions at that point.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else care to comment?
I'd like to just say that I've heard Richard Raines speak, and he has talked about the density of downtown and the need for density, and I agree with what he said. And I think, we made a lot of pretty strong comments at the last meeting. I think Mr. Barsky came back with, trying to meet those comments that we presented at the time. And I just thank him for doing that at least.
Okay. Okay, well, again, at this point, if there are no other comments from the board, if someone would like to make a motion and a second, we can move forward.
I think I'll make a comment, Steve, or a couple.
Please.
I really appreciate the adjustments that the applicant, Mr. Barsky, has made, and even on the east side walkway, every little bit helped. Although luckily it's just cars parked on the neighbor's property, close to the property line, but every little bit did help. You got windows into the bedrooms. Unfortunately, it was basically the window that served the living room. I understand that. If you're going to, as you say, vent the kitchens to the exterior, that helps me a lot on that. And Steve Cohen's comment that is a good thing to service these units. I think there's a lot of pluses. The density part doesn't bother me, although I wish the town had put you in an overlay zone, and then we wouldn't. Although you would be seeking a variance on the east side because it's a residential zone that you'd be adjacent to. And I think it calls for like a 15-foot buffer between the property line, but that doesn't apply to you because you're not in an overlay zone. So you made out okay there. But all the things you did with the windows and whatnot, you know, I can support this. And obviously the two affordables that you're in a sense voluntarily, you know, trading into this to help with the variances. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, board members, someone like to make a motion or further discussion? Yes, Jim?
I'll make, well, I'll kind of say that I agree with what Michael said. I think that they've come back with a project that is improved, has answered most of the questions that I think that most of the board had. I think that having a little more room on the sides does make it fit a little better and feel a little bit more passage there. I think the attention to detail and coming back has been very positive. And I think that if we can find a way to get windows in any kind of window in the living room, I think that would certainly make those living rooms a lot more pleasant to be in. I'll be the first one to support the application and move forward.
Just one question. I'm assuming this motion is conditioned on the applicant complying with the review memos of Mr. Bridger and Mr. Weissman, Shade Tree Commission, our traffic engineer, and Mr. Dobromilski's memo on landscaping. I believe the applicant said they would comply with all those comments, but ordinarily we'd make that a condition of the approval. And my other question is this motion including a variance now for windows on the west side? I know there's been discussion, but I wasn't clear as to, is that part of the board's motion now?
I would support that. I don't know how everyone else feels.
I would support that for the affordable units, windows on the west side.
Okay. All right.
Maybe put it, instead of putting in gas ranges, put in the convection tops. Just to be timely. Even though they are vented.
Yeah.
I do have another question related to that.
Sure.
Is the venting to the exterior required by code? Okay, I would like that to be a condition because that is.
I think it's important that that be a condition, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
You could put a recirculating hood in there, I believe, but I think the venting is a good idea. It's a big space and there will be a window, but is the window going to be opened and everything else? But the vents are a very good idea.
Okay.
But just the two affordable units, right? The venting?
Yeah.
Yeah. The one affordable unit, the 2-bedroom technically has a window in that small hallway between the bedrooms. There's a window there, so that's technically a living room window, but I think the venting is.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. All right. So Jim, did you make a motion to approve or just?
Yes, I did.
support?
Yes. That
You
was
did.
that was my intent, yes.
Okay, good. Do we have a second for that?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Okay, any discussion of the motion? Okay, Claudia, can you call the roll?
Penn,
Yes.
Olson,
Yes.
Savage,
Yes.
Mr. Floyd,
Yes.
Mr. Shriver,
Yes.
Mr. Stein,
Yes.
Chairman Cohen.
I'm sorry, but I'm gonna vote no. I just feel that the building's a little a little large, but I like the concept, but I believe we have the votes to approve it. Is that correct?
We have the votes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Mr. Novak, thank you for coming.
Yes.
Very
I
helpful.
appreciate it.
And again, anytime, and I really appreciate you thinking of us.
No problem.
All right.
Good. Thank you.
Everyone stay
Okay.
safe.
All right. So moving right along here.
While the next one is setting up, can we take 5 minutes?
Sure. All right. It is, what time is it? 9:09. All right. So let's just say 9:15. We'll,
Who is next?
next
Ninety
is
Brooks Bend.
Brooks Bend.
Okay.
Thank you. Well, Jim certainly has the best screenshots of anybody here.
Looks nice.
It looks really nice.
Yeah.
I hope that's not Princeton tonight, right?
I like when he gets up and walks around and it makes it look like he's walking in the snow.
Hey, Derek, are you still there? Karen, do you know what the term fire official means?
Sorry, we'll be back.
What is the position fire official?
My understanding, well, I'll let Derek answer that. I was going to, but I'll let him respond.
Coordinates all the local fire inspections of all the commercial properties in town and coordinates with the fire department and the fire officials.
Okay, thank you.
He's different than the fire subcode official, which is actually in the building department, which gets into the more technical aspects of the building code.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, it is 9:15. And let's see, we have everybody here, so we're back. Our next case is case Z22-280. It is 90 Brooks Bend, block 5003, lot 2 in the R1 zone. Karen, are the notices in order?
Yes, noticing is in order. The board has jurisdiction tonight.
Okay. Mr. Bridger, do you want to present your findings?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jagdish Reha is the owner and applicant of 90 Brooks Bend. It's located in the R1 zone in the former Princeton Township. Requesting a C2 variance to permit the construction of a front entry single car garage in exception to the required 16-foot setback. The subject lot is not complying with regard to the required 200-foot front yard frontage, excuse me. The existing is 132.25 feet. The actual house itself is complying with all the applicable bulk regulations. The subject's currently undergoing renovations and several additions that are in process, and all of these are permitted as of right, except for the proposed front-facing single-car attached garage, which requires a variance and exception to section 10B 255 2D1A, which requires that the garages be set back 16 feet, front-facing garage be set back 16 feet from the nearest portion of the front facade. The garage is flush with the nearest portion of the facade. The required setback is 16. The proposed is 0. He's requested consideration under the C2 criteria.
Okay,
Have any
thank you very
questions?
much.
Glad to address them. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, who's going to be presenting for the applicant? Someone? Anyone?
The architect is Daniel Fortunato, but he is trying to get his client on the call.
Okay. We'll give it a little couple of minutes here.
Maybe we said
You could probably hear me, but you can't see me. This is Dan Fortunato.
Yeah, hi.
Unfortunately, like every time I come on here, I have video problems. I'm gonna
Dan-
keep trying.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
There
Got
he
it.
is.
Great,
Got it.
Okay.
excellent.
All
And
right,
did
good.
you
Finally.
say
I've been
you
having real problems with this.
Oh, I see. We see your client as well. All right, why don't we swear you in, Mr. Fortunato, just for the
Okay.
record, you are a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey, correct?
That's correct.
All right, and you, Mr., am I pronouncing it right? Talreja?
Yeah, that's correct.
Close enough. All right. If you would both raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm your testimony this evening will be truthful?
Yes.
Yes, it will.
Thank you.
Jagdish, why don't you get started? Because I think you said you could put your drawings up on the screen.
Yeah, let me start sharing and get started. Okay,
Do you have the floor plan, Jagdish? It might be easier if they see the other drawing.
sure.
Yeah, you just had it.
I'm trying to move this thing.
All right, so I'll start with the technical aspects of it. I know Derek gave a brief description of what was going on. Judge, can you just scroll down a little bit more so we could see the other way, the other way? All right, so what wanted to present to the board when he gets the picture up here, go back to the other floor plan you had. Essentially, the floor plan, Judge, that's a foundation plan.
Oh,
The one you just had. There you go. Stop right there. Well, anyway, I'm trying to see the top of the screen, but currently the owner has a 3-car garage. As you could probably partially see there in the photo. We're doing an addition on the house, multiple additions on the house. And due to the owner's situation of having family members, older family members moving in, we needed to provide a 4th bay garage, which is at the bottom left-hand corner there of the drawing. We had discussions with Derek about this, and we were trying to conform with the ordinances of the township for new garages. And we pretty much meet everything except for one criteria, and that is the door. As you can see, there's an entrance that does separate the other 3-car bays from the 4th car bay. Derek said we can't do that. We really have to have the 4th car bay touching the house. Part of the problem we have, though, is the existing foundations, because the vestibule, the stairs, and the laundry room that are there are currently over an existing basement. So we really can't put the carport over the basement. So we slid it to the left where it's on grade. And that's the best we could really do. So we're basically here today to see if we can get relief from this particular ordinance with the garage being separated from the house with a door.
I'm confused about, maybe,
Yeah.
I'm confused about that. The garage abuts the house now.
I would agree with you, Derek. Maybe if you could step in, because you and I did have this discussion, and that's why we're here today.
I don't know if there's a site plan you can bring up. Or serve the proposed survey.
I don't know if
No,
we should I don't know if we should make this an exhibit. What is this plan?
This is the site plan for the house, the property right now. So the project we're talking about is on the right side of the house, and the asphalt, it's written asphalt drive is sort of where you're circling right now. There's a 3-car garage you would enter if you're pulling up to the driveway where it says concrete right there on the left side. That's where the 3-car garage is now. What we're trying to do, the L-shaped scenario you see here, is we're trying to create a garage basically where he has a circling the hand right now. That's where the garage is. We would like to put the garage right now.
But there's, according to at least the floor plan, it's connected to a portion of the house that extends out this way.
That's
Or is
correct.
so is that an existing or proposed portion of the house?
Well, sort of both. There's a portion, you see that sort of octagonal type gray
Yes.
area there. That's all existing. And there's
What
a
is it?
basement underneath that part. So we could not put the garage against the house only due to that. You know, I don't want to put a garage over a basement. So we essentially slid it to the right side where there is where it's on grade, essentially.
So,
But also for backing up purposes, you know, it's going to be a little bit difficult having an L-shaped scenario with garages abutting. But as I said, we're here today because Derek mentioned we cannot do that. We have to have the garages touching the house, even though you're right, the house physically is connected. But that's,
but wait, and again, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get an idea, because
Sure.
does this site plan actually reflect what's going to happen? I mean, I see the 3-car garage, And according to the floor plan you just presented, there is an addition in that area that says removed walk in that little octagonal area you
Yes.
pointed out. So
Correct.
there is an addition in that whole area, right?
That's correct.
And that's not shown on here.
No, we just showed it.
Where is it?
The floor plan.
Yeah, we just showed it. Go back to the floor plan again.
Why don't we call this your Exhibit A1, and now you're talking about the floor plan, okay?
So first of all, this drawing is 180 degrees roughly.
You are
off of
correct.
the other.
That-
Yeah,
that's-
so, okay.
That's correct, right?
And it shows, move the, so we can see a little more of the garage, of the single car garage. The
The other way,
wall,
the other,
the
okay.
wall, the entry wall to the 3-car garage is light, and if you just took your finger and ran it all the way down, everything to the left of that is an addition. The temple, the laundry, the vestibule, the stair looks like it was there. And then the garage itself, well, maybe the stair wasn't there, but there was a stair shown in the front, I think.
Yeah,
So all that is an addition, is that correct?
that is correct.
Okay, so that's not shown on the site plan you showed us.
No, it is. The outline is. I mean, the outline, the site plan, and you're correct. It is 180 degrees from what this
Okay,
is
but-
here, but
But
if
that,
you see there, now you see that there's a little nook at the front. That's the steps. Right there, Jagdish. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the steps that you saw. So where he's running the hand right now is the garage, and then it
That's the
goes back
new-
to the temple.
that's the new addition
That's correct.
in that whole area. So,
Right.
okay, so the garage abuts those other rooms. So I guess my question is, Derek, what is the, other than the fact that the garage door faces the street now, the side, the 3-car garage is existing, and I mean, from a standpoint of facing the street, they're visible from the street, but they don't face the street. But this 1-car garage entry faces the street.
This all relates to the neighborhood character ordinance.
Yes,
And I
yeah.
find it very difficult to work with on existing properties when you do an addition. So technically, that new wall that he's built, where that new area, when you add the garage, that's the front facade, and the
Yes.
ordinance requires that the garage be set back 16 feet from the nearest facade. So the garage would have to slide back 16 feet, which quite frankly, it may make sense on new additions, but in this situation, it's an odd, the house is at an odd configuration to the street. It's on like almost
Yes.
like a diagonal, instead of front facing the street. So
But the
Can I just-
16 feet would be measured from the street side of the 3-car garage, which is.
where the hand is right
No.
now.
why-
See now,
It's
see,
six-
Jagdish, can you go to the floor plan again, please? Okay, because what we're trying to see here is because when we read the ordinance, it states that we need to go to the second from the corner. So slide down a little bit. So we took, it was more than 16 feet basically from the corner of the house where the existing 3 cars are now. So we moved everything back more than 16 feet. And so that's why we're seeing that this does conform at least to that 16-foot rule.
But then you have a new facade, which becomes a new front facade next to the right of the 1-car garage, where the vestibule is. I mean, the ordinance is basically unworkable in this situation.
I can appreciate your situation, Derek. But are we granting, what are we granting a variance? Are we granting
In my interpretation, this garage would have to be slid back 16 feet from that new front facade where the vestibule is and the stairs are.
Oh, okay, I understand what you're saying.
I mean, I think it's ridiculous, sorry.
Oh, it is. You're right. You're exactly right. But yeah, and I can understand what Mr. Fortunato was saying with the furthest projection of the 3-car garage. He's well beyond a 16-foot from that standpoint. Okay, but we're gonna be granting a variance for the 16-foot separation or setback from the nearest facade.
I guess, yeah, I thought we had that from the corner, but I guess what Derek's saying now, it's got to go from where the 3-car garage is to the left
Okay.
16 feet, so we don't quite have that. We do have, but you see, we do have an 8-foot and a 7-foot 8-inch dimension already there, so we are just about at that 16 foot, I'm sorry, my mistake, 6 feet, 7.5. So we'd have to go a little bit more then.
There's multiple front facades on this house. I mean, that's why I'm
Yeah,
saying.
yes, there are. Yeah, there
So
are.
that's why the house would have to be 16 feet back from that vestibule facade, which
Yes.
is
Can-
a,
can you go back
results
to
in an
this?
odd design.
Can you go back to the site plan for a moment, please? All right, and zoom out a little bit
Zoom out.
so we can see more of the site plan.
There you go.
Yeah, keep going. I want to see the street. Okay, so at the bottom of your screen is the street, is Brooks Bend, and it's running basically 45 degrees from, no, it's running like 90 degrees from the street itself, which is running diagonally down where the cursor is now.
Right.
So,
Just slide it up a little bit more so you can see, because it's cut off there, the bottom corner of the
Wait a
lot.
second,
Just-
I think I
make it a little smaller scale. That'll bring in more of the drawing.
let me try to.
There you go. That sort of does it. It's small now,
Yeah.
but the Brooks Bend, Brooks Bend, if you can put your cursor where the driveway entrance from Brooks Bend is, right? So that's the driveway. Then you move up the driveway and you veer off to the right, and the garage is in that area, and there's a circular driveway in front of the house.
Correct.
That's correct. That's
Okay,
correct.
so that's,
Right.
so there are multiple facades here. I see exactly what you're saying, Derek. But so we're basically granting a variance for the 16 feet to set the neighborhood character ordinance.
Yes.
Okay, all right. That was it. Now I understand it. I was just confused. I figured the drawings were 180 degrees off, so it just made it a little difficult. I just want to make sure everybody understands what this is. Okay, I mean, continue on, please.
Go back to the floor plan again, Jagdish. The next one down, no, the next one. So again, back to that point, we weren't quite sure where the 16 feet needs to be. We thought again, that from that front corner, but it's not. So now, if we're saying it's got to be 16 feet from the garage, we have 7 feet plus another 6 and change. So are you saying that we have to be that direction 16 feet? We got
You
to
need to
shift
be
the
back.
garage to the left?
You would need to be back 16 feet from where the garage is right now. You'd have to slide it back so it almost started to go to where the temple is.
Yeah, we're
That's
not
why
gonna
we're
be able to do-
here.
Yeah, we're not gonna be able to do that.
Well,
Um,
it doesn't really, in my opinion, make a lot of sense to do that, to slide it back.
It's just making a laundry room and a vestibule just fatter for no reason. And we also have rock conditions and other things we're trying to deal with on the site as well, which you don't see on the flat drawing. So it's making us virtually very hard to slide that to the left. Another additional 5 feet or so, 6 feet. And for what, I don't know. So that's sort of why we're here.
Yeah. And just a point of note, in order to let the construction go forward, instead of calling this a garage, right now it is approved as a exercise room, as a room of slab on grade. So the variance we're asking is that we are allowed to, put a garage front entrance to it. So all of the structure is approved, I believe, Derek, and it's the issue is, can we make it a garage?
Right.
Yeah, you're gonna make it, you want it as a garage, is
I
that right?
want- Correct, that's correct.
Yeah, okay, so it's a garage. Okay. All right. Okay, Mr. Fortunato, you wanna say anything
Well,
else?
I just don't know how much more I could elaborate. We essentially did the best we could, understanding the code the best we could. And it just didn't really to us make sense going 16 feet to the left, just to spend more money and more square footage and cost of the owner when he doesn't need to. I mean, he's got everything he needs, the temple, laundry room, stairs, everything is where it needs to be and what it needs to be. Just shifting it over further for the garage, it just didn't really make sense to us. So that, again, that's why we're here today.
Okay. All right. Okay, you want to add anything right now? Or are we good? Oh, yeah.
Jagdish, anything you want to add at all on the reasons for this or anything you might want to add?
No, I noted down some points if it helps. It's a 1990 built house purchased in 2021, so I'm the new owner. Addition being done is approved. Existing garage and existing service entrance retain the same issue. So I'm kind of inheriting a similar issue. The entrance to a new single garage is not facing the street. So the entrance is not directly facing the street. It's the facade that is facing the street. So there's minimal impact to neighbors, and it retains the same facade, the siding as the existing house. So the aesthetics to the exterior are to the garage. The proposed garage is the same as the existing house. So and the lights in the garage would be down lights under the soffit. Trying to do that, and it's well within setback provision. So there's no setback variance we're asking for here. We do have older parents living with us, and for their transport needs, we would need another garage. And that was the only logical place to put this garage in due to driveway needs, gas lines running out to other sites, current house design, and so on and so forth. And that's really it.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else either of you would like to add?
No, I have nothing else to add.
Okay. If you can take down your screen share. Can you take it down?
Stop share.
There we go. So if neither of you have any more comments you'd like to add, then at this point, we'll open this up to the public for comments. Claudia, has anybody indicated their desire to speak?
There are no hands.
Okay, thank you. We'll just give it 30 seconds here. Sometimes people don't chime in till late. Okay, so let's close the public portion of the hearing. Mr. Fortunato, or I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your last name, Mr.
Fortunato, that's fine.
No, I can pronounce your
Oh,
last
okay.
name. Okay, I got that one.
Mr.
Okay,
Jones.
so we're going to go into, we're done with the public portion. Nobody's commented. Do you want to say anything more before we go into executive session, which means talking amongst ourselves and possibly asking you questions before we make a motion?
No, I'm good, thanks.
No,
Okay.
but we're good. Derek and I, we've worked together on quite a few projects, and this one was a bit of a head scratcher. So
Yeah.
we worked together on this, try to do the best we can. He made the suggestion, we come here today and see what we can do about it. So we did the best we could on the design with Derek's help, but this is where we're at.
No, it's a difficult, Derek's right, it's a very difficult lot with a lot of front facades. Okay, so we'll go into executive session now. Do any of the board members have any questions, any comments they'd like to make, any further questions of the owner or the architect? And if not, if someone would like to make a motion.
Is it
Yes.
under construction now?
Yes, it is. We got a permit for, there's, which you didn't see on the screen, but there's two other portions under construction. There's a rear addition and also another side addition for the master bedroom. So we applied 4 building permits to move this project forward, so we didn't lose time in the weather to get the foundations in. So that's what we did at this time. But the garage is not, I mean, it's not built. I mean, we were waiting for today's decision, basically. So, but we had to get the foundations in. So that's in right now. So the footprint of what you saw is installed. But that's
So-
it.
you had originally asked for that space, which is now a garage, to be an exercise room.
Correct, to
And you're
to
changing
move
it now
forward with
to-
this project.
Okay.
Just, we didn't want to start piecemeal building permits, so we figured we'll just go for everything, get the weather, beat the weather, get the foundations in, which we did. But we still wanted to pursue the option of the garage.
Okay, thank you. Steve, are you okay with that?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
You're welcome. And yes, Eve?
I'm just curious, it's already built, so, but just so that I can be oriented, the existing 3-car garage, does that face Brooks Bend or?
Sort of.
No,
I mean-
it's a little bit skewed.
Building
the-
skewed.
It's a little bit skewed, but I mean, the new garage, the proposed garage that we want to do probably faces a little, it's 90 degrees of the other ones, but it probably faces a little bit closer to Brooks Bend than the others do. So that's why we kept thinking that 16-foot rule would apply, because we always know that the front of the house and the new garage has to be 16 feet back. And that's, like I said, that's why I thought we were clear on this one.
Thanks.
Any other questions or comments?
I move we approve the variance.
Wait a minute, whoa.
What?
Slow down.
Michael? Okay,
No,
Michael?
you want to move along, Steve. Everybody true to form.
Thank you.
I think, it is not a tough situation, unusual, existing house. I don't think there's any impact with this garage on neighborhood character. It's not truly front facing. You have multiple front facades. And, it is so skewed. I think it's worthy of a variance. Those are my comments. I thought you should get something on the record, Steve.
Okay, I think you're
Well,
right.
I agree with you.
Okay, all right. Any other questions or comments from the board, or at this point, would someone like to make a motion?
I'll move approval of the variance. Simple as that. For the
Okay.
reasons I cited.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Mr. Scriber, I think you're up for the second.
No, I'm reflecting. I'm trying to slow this down a little. Second.
Oh, okay, all right. You do it.
All right, so we have a motion, we have a second. Claudia, would you like to call the roll?
Chen,
Yes.
Colson,
Yes.
Mr. Davich,
Yes.
Mr. Floyd,
Yes.
Mrs. Shriver,
Yes.
Mr. Stein,
Yes.
Chairman Cohen.
Yes,
Thank you.
okay.
I had a question for Mr. Calreja. Did you include your list of reasons in your information that was uploaded to the website?
I haven't done no, that was just my notes, so I can send it across if like.
If you could send a copy of that, because you did address some of the purposes of zoning in there, and that would be helpful. If you could send us
Yes,
a
I'll
copy.
email
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you very much. Good luck with
Thank
your
you.
house.
Good
Thank
luck.
you.
Thank you. Okay, moving right along. Our next case is Z 22-259, 338 Nassau Street, block 3401, lot 32. Karen, are all the notices in place?
They are. The board has jurisdiction to hear it tonight.
We seem to hear this from this property a lot. Derek, can you summarize your memo, please?
Yes, sir. Thank you. The applicant is 338 Nassau Street LLC. They're the owner and applicant, and they are seeking a modification of an approved site plan that had variances to permit a roof addition on an existing air chiller, generator, exclosure and exception to ordinance requirements. The applicant received site plan approval, conditional use authority authorization from the zoning board in 2008 to construct a approximately 3,900 square foot building. They came back in 2021 for a modification of a site plan, permit the replacement of 3 existing air conditioners located on the western side of the building with 2 new air conditioning condensers. The existing air conditioners units complied at that time, but the larger units required variance. The applicant also installed a generator and a chiller at the north end or the northeast corner of the rear part of the parking lot, and it was an exception to the required setback, excuse me. The generator chiller enclosure was proposed to be enclosed by 4 walls. There was testimony by Louis Gottfried and Sons, who did the audio readings of the noise. The applicant is requesting a modification of that site plan. They would like to permit the addition of a roof over this generator chiller enclosure. There will be 2 doors facing the street. The north and south facing walls are proposed to be constructed in red brick. The west facing wall is a solid wall composed of brick and hardy planks, excuse me, and the eastern wall faces hardy planks and hardy brick and hardy plank exteriors with louvers that will allow the air to flow out. The roofing material is standard metal, standing metal seam roof, which will match the roof on the main building. The east facing roof has 3 openings to allow for additional air circulation. The structure is considered an accessory structure, requires a 5-foot setback, and the variance for that is it's an increase in the degree of non-compliance with regard to adding this roof over the existing walls, which is in the 5-foot setback. The previous approval did have some conditions regarding noise levels, and in compliance with NJAC 7:29-1, post-installation testing to confirm that the noise generated by the chiller and the generator are compliant with that section. The resulting test shall be provided to the zoning officer. In the event that the tests indicate that decibel levels are not compliant, the applicant shall install additional sound barriers or baffles to accomplish compliance in accordance with the state requirements of the sound ordinance. So if the board's inclined to look favorably on this application, it's recommended that the above referenced condition be applied to this application as well. The proposed roof will encroach slightly onto the adjoining property at 341 Nassau Street. An easement agreement is required. The owner of the subject property is also the owner of the adjoining property. And we would suggested that the applicant consider adding downspouts that redirect the water back onto the subject property. The property is in a historic district, it's in the Jugtown Historic District, and it was reviewed by the Historic Preservation Commission, and Elizabeth Kim is here tonight. There's a lot of, site plan criteria, but this really doesn't have any measurable effect on anything, except that it's adding a roof over what was initially just a 4-walled structure. So it looks a bit like a small shed or a garage at the back of the property. Those are my comments. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to try to address them.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I guess let's well, first of all, board members, do you have any questions of Mr. Berger? Okay.
Yeah, I just have one question about that last part of the memo. The proposed roof encroaching onto the adjoining property at 341 Nassau Street. It must be a different address that you meant to have in there, right?
No, that's.
Yeah, it would have to be because it's an odd number and this is on the even side of the street. So it's the thank you. It's the corner property. I forget it's an interior office design or
right. Yeah.
Harrison, and
342.
thank you
okay.
for that clarification.
Okay. All right. Ms. Kim, do you want to summarize your memo on this?
Elizabeth, we'll just swear you in. I don't think we have yet. Do you swear or affirm your testimony this evening will be truthful?
I do.
Thank you.
So as Mr. Bridger had stated, HPC did review this application. They heard it on December 19th, 2022, and they were familiar with the application because of the original project that came in for the addition and other site improvements like the driveway and the parking area. Most of the review that was done subsequent to that was actually done by our office administratively by the HPC chair and myself. So we kind of brought the commission up to speed on what the improvements were up to date. They were interested in seeing if perhaps that enclosure could be relocated, but as we were advised by the applicant, there was a lot of discussion with the neighbor. There was concern about sound, so they understood the location where it was, and they did endorse the application for the installation with the roof over the enclosure. However, they did feel that there's that brick facade, which also has some hardy plank siding, but they felt from the view from Nassau Street that the backdrop of the office building behind it would actually fall as a good backdrop to kind of buffer it from the visual impact of it that you would see down the driveway. However, they didn't feel that was shared from the view that might have been open from Harrison Street. They also were of the opinion that even though they understood the reason for the metal standing seam roof, which matched the vestibule on the new building, they felt that it was not actually necessary for them to kind of match it since it was kind of a small structure on its own. They also felt that their recommendation is to perhaps simplify some of the details of the structure so it doesn't stand out. They felt some of those features like eliminating the soldier core, simplifying the hinges, and perhaps painting the wood would kind of reduce the attention to the shed and actually let the prominent historic structure on Nassau Street stand out better. But otherwise, they did support the enclosure. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, again, any questions for Ms. Kim? Okay, who's representing the owner in this case? Mr. Vernon, okay. Mr. Kennedy.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Thank you so much. I guess in the interest of time and that there are two other applications, we'll just have one witness tonight. As Mr. Bridger and Ms. Kim said, this is a project that's been approved twice before. We're here just for one cleanup variance. A very lengthy and elaborate historic preservation and restoration of this property has been done by this applicant. It's done, finished, essentially ready to go. You all recall about a year ago, a very interesting multi-meeting discussion about the noise generally in Princeton, frankly, but we came to a resolution with locating the generator and air conditioning chiller unit as far away from the residential properties as possible, and to a noise condition, and we are not seeking any relief from that. We're not looking to move anything. Essentially, the applicant, in completing the project, looked at the type of sound deadening walls that was approved and just really didn't feel it was appropriate for his investment in this project. So he wanted something that he felt looked more appropriate. And at the end of the day, while we would have complied before and will certainly comply now, adding the roof actually will likely have some additional sound attenuation properties. We have a couple of slides. We have our site engineer, Jim Kamalik. He was previously sworn and accepted, but want to dot all our I's and cross our T's if that's necessary, because that was a different application. So
I think we'll accept Mr. Kamalik.
I appreciate that, and I'll yield to Ms. Casey if he needs to be sworn in separately for a different hearing.
You're still under oath, Mr.
Okay.
That's fine.
Thank you. And I'll share my screen briefly just to walk through with our engineer what we are looking to do here and remind everyone what this project was.
And
So Jim,
Ryan, Mr. Kennedy, you want this collectively?
thank you.
exhibited?
I believe it is, it'll be 8 slides in total, I believe.
Thank you.
Okay, good evening, everyone. So just referring to here, slide 1, you'll see the location of the project. It's one property in to the west from Harrison Street and Nassau Street, 338 Nassau. And then the rendering on the right is the front facade of the building, and you can see over the ridge, the rear addition, which was subject to the prior application. That's screened behind the front of the existing building with the main access, the gravel drive on the right-hand side. Again, this is a location of the property, the second lot in right off Nassau Street, as highlighted as 338. And this slide indicates that it's within the Jugtown Historic District, thus the review by HPC, and really the main driver of this application and a request for this slight variance due to the increased height to 15 feet to the ridge of the proposed enclosure. And here's the aerial view of the property with the existing parking lot at the rear, the driveway on the right, again, the front facade. And if you look at the yellow square, the outer property line, the area that we'll be talking about is the rear right-hand corner where the chiller, generator pad, and enclosure was previously approved. This application is going to be this red area, which is approximately 13 feet wide by 25 feet long. It's the exact same size, the exact same location. The pad has been already constructed and equipment installed in accordance with that prior approval. So we're not talking about any changes horizontally or any locational changes. We're just talking about this gable appendage that would be placed on top of the previously approved walls.
I'll also note perhaps on here, as Mr. Bridger pointed out, the need for that easement on the adjoining property. We do control both properties. Our plans already noted that we would have to do that, and we are agreeable to that as a condition.
And just as a note to that, it's basically a 12-inch wide overhang. That's the extent of the easement. It's really de minimis and can be easily covered with just a small deed notice for that easement. So this is a view from Nassau Street looking back towards the rear corner of the property. And on the left-hand side, you can see access from the existing gravel driveway, the outline of the proposed gable roofed structure. And overall, since it is a historic district, considerable expense into renovating and upgrading the existing building with extensive focus on the aesthetics. The applicant, Mr. King, really focused on what's the best way that he can construct an enclosure relative to the materials and the form of that enclosure. And again, you can see that it's generally in keeping with the context of the main building and the overall character of the historic district in general.
Yeah, and so on the left is the kind of profile of what we're proposing. On the right with the red X through it is what was previously approved, the kind of standard 10-foot fence minus the hat on top of the structure. We put for HPC a slide together, and as Ms. Kim noted on the right, this is a view from the street. And what's really telling here, I think, is the brick of the building behind. And you know, I think one of their realizations and ours was that using that brick material will really cause that structure to be hidden or blend in with what's behind it. We also, to the left, it's the profile of the revised structure, and then all the materials that we were proposing to use and how they match what's already existing on the site. Each photo is a photo of a material on the site and where it would go essentially on the new structure. Now, it's a good opportunity or time to say, you know, we're happy to abide and work on the comments that HPC had specifically, the soldier course, possibly painting the door rather than having it be the natural mahogany to match the existing door, and the different types of hinges, and if the board is inclined to grant the variance, and that can be done administratively, we'd be happy to work with HPC and resolving those last material or design issues. So Jim, we if you could summarize here, but we do need 2 variances. They are essentially the same variances that we got last time. However, because we will be taller, and kind of an intervening ordinance about accessory structures kind of changes slightly the category we're in. We received last time a variance to have a 10-foot high walled structure enclosure at this exact location. But by putting a roof on it, that becomes an accessory structure. And while the setbacks are the same, essentially, as approved last year at with that site plan and variance, the addition of the roof and the intervening change to the ordinance that would allow accessory structures to be 5 feet from the lot line rather than the 0 feet that was approved here causes the new variance condition. Jim, any other thoughts on that? Did I get, was I close there?
Yeah, I guess I would just, the take home message here is pretty much what was previously approved relative to setbacks is the same as what's being requested tonight. And we feel with this particular design that the aesthetics of the design really far outweigh other options for an enclosure and really will result in an asset to the property. So relative to, from a C2 context here, and a positive criteria, I would reference purpose of zoning I to produce a desirable visual environment. We think that it's pretty clear that relative to the other alternatives, this is a superior design. And on that basis, we feel that that would support the positive criteria. Again, the general welfare, keeping the context of the overall historic district as a whole, and being in keeping with that would support purpose A. And then purpose J, the conservation of historic districts, by definition, that this clearly, supports that, as that's the overall intent. As far as the negative criteria, we don't see any substantial detriment to adjacent properties. There's no change to the horizontal, location or configuration here. Again, the location is well away from residential properties. And there was a condition from the prior approval, which we expect would be reiterated should this be granted as part of this application here, that the noise levels would need to satisfy the requirements of the prior approval, which would include post-installation testing. Again, this structure with the roof enclosure should even provide some more additional acoustic dampening with the addition of this top on the structure. So we feel that the positive criteria and the negative criteria are clearly satisfied in this particular case. And we hope that the board really sees these enhancements and changes as an asset over the previous enclosure on the property.
Thank you. If the board or any professionals have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Board members, any questions?
Mr. Kennedy, there was one additional recommendation in Mr. Bridger's memo regarding noise. It says due to close proximity to existing residences, it's recommended that the start time be, I assume, no earlier than 8 a.m.
This is for construction?
Well, let's, Derek, maybe you can explain. Are you saying when the chiller or generator is operating, it shouldn't be earlier than 8
No,
a.m.?
no, excuse me. That relates to construction.
Oh, construction. Got it. Okay. All right.
And yeah, so that's a standard condition, assuming that's what you're referring to, that we're agreeing on that.
Anything else, Karen?
No, I don't think so.
Board members, any questions?
No, I
No.
was wondering Karen's question about the generator, that wasn't for the routine weekly exercising of the generator, was it? Maybe it was.
Well, the prior approvals did have restrictions and previously required, there were conditions set on that we're not seeking to change. It wasn't necessarily 8 AM, but
Okay, so it is construction related, it's not operational. The ability to use the cooling tower and to test the generators you can set on a a timer to test at a certain time. The cooling tower is going to be operational anytime somebody's in the building and is using heat or air conditioning. So it can't be any restriction on that. I have two questions. There on the property line that separates this site from 342 in the back, is there planting on the adjacent 342 property that would screen this? And let me finish before you give me an answer. On that side, as you face this, this has got louvers on the side that faces 342. The cooling tower needs fresh air. And so that's where on the other side, it's got hardy plank siding as an infill. And on this side that faces 342, it's a combination of hardy plank and a louvered wall. And that provides the fresh air for the cooling tower. Yes, no, it does.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
And in combination with, there are some openings on the roof as well. But
Right,
yes.
okay. But if that's the case, then there needs to be, and I know you mentioned you're going to create an easement for the roof overhang, but you need to create a bigger easement that would prohibit the 342 property, and I know it's one owner right now, but it may not be that way forever. It has to preclude anyone from building in that back corner of 342 that would inhibit the functioning of the cooling tower.
Essentially under the eave, prohibiting something that would be.
No, not under the eave, beyond the eave. The eave is only 12 inches, and that cooling tower needs ventilation, and that's what vents the cooling tower. So you can't build up against it, or else it'll hurt the function of the cooling tower. And so I think as Mr. Bridger mentioned, there needs to be an easement for the overhang. I think you need to increase that easement for the fresh air for the cooling tower to prohibit someone from building up against that, if the property is sold or whatever. So it needs an easement. It needs a clear area in front of that side of the cooling tower.
So we'd be happy to work with staff as we create that easement to make sure it satisfies.
That's fine.
Operations of the.
Just a quick comment. There's a required 4-foot setback on that parking lot for a planting strip. You think that would address it, Steve?
It would. The only question is going to be
The planters.
Anything you put in front of that cooling tower vent is going to die. So it's just the way it is. It's going to throw out a lot of hot air, and that'll kill whatever you have. But the issue is, you understand what I'm getting to, and staff can resolve that and create the appropriate easement, if that's acceptable to you, Mr. Kennedy, and the owner.
No, it is. Thank you.
Okay, that's my only comment. All right. Any other witnesses or?
That is it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Board members, any questions of Mr. Kennedy or Mr. Kamalchuk or Derek or Elizabeth Kim?
No.
Okay, so hearing none, we'll open it to the public. Claudia, has anybody from the public indicated they'd like to speak to this application?
There are no hands.
Wow, great. Okay, we'll close the public portion. Mr. Kennedy, we're gonna go into executive session. Do you want to add anything?
Thank you again, this, for essentially the reasons that were approved last time at this location. As our planner and engineer said, we think this is aesthetically better. It'll have a better sound attenuation. Will comply with all those requirements regardless, but this is an applicant who is essentially over-investing in this property and wants to do it right. Seeing what the standard sound attenuation walls would have looked like, he wasn't satisfied and wanted to do one better. And so that's why we're here tonight. Thanks.
Thank you. It is, I'd like to add, the nicest cooling tower and generator enclosure I've ever seen. So it's well
May also
done.
be the most expensive after this meeting. Yeah.
It certainly is going to be. So, all right, board members, are there any questions, comments, or would someone like to make a motion?
I would like to make a comment. I
Feel
do
free.
believe that this is one of the finest restorations I've ever seen of a building.
Very
I mean,
nice.
the entire project has just been first rate from beginning to end. It's amazing to me how nice it is.
I would
And,
agree.
and I
Very
also
well done.
think that if he wants to put in these extra little things that the HPC thinks are unnecessary, I think he should go ahead and do it if he wants to. And it may not be necessary, but I think they're very nice. He
Okay.
does very nice work.
Thank you. Thank you. I think I agree with your comments. Any other comments from the board, or if not, if someone would like to make a motion?
I'll move to approve it. I think it's an improvement over the previous proposal.
Thank you. Do we
I'll
have a
second
second?
it. Yeah, definitely. I think it's big improvement over the way it was going to look, before, for sure.
Michael, did you want to say something?
No, I don't. It's pretty
Okay.
simple.
Okay, Claudia, can you call the roll?
Ms. Chen,
Yes.
Ms. Coulson,
Yes.
Mr. Davich,
Yes.
Mr. Floyd,
Yes.
Mr. Schreiber,
Yes.
Mr. Stein,
Yes.
Chairman Cohen.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Very much.
Our next case is Z 23-310, 222 Snowden's Farms Lane, block 5704, lot 13. Karen, are the notices in order?
Yes, notices are in order. The board can hear the application tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Bridger, can you summarize your memo?
Yes, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Peter and Magdalena Furnace are the owners and applicants of 222 Snowden Farms Lane. They're requesting a C1 variance to permit construction of a new single-family dwelling on a lot in exception to the required lot area. Subject property is located in the R4 zone in the former Princeton Township. Subject to bulk requirements of 10BA 246, 253, 254, 255, and 255.2. The subject lot is not complying with regard to the required 36,670 square foot lot area, which is 3/4 of an acre. The existing is 21,058, which is just around a half acre. Majority of the existing single-family home has been demolished. The applicant is proposing to construct a new two-story contemporary style single-family home. Features a full basement, 3 full baths, 2 powder rooms, 2 bedrooms, kitchen, living room, dining room, music room, office, study, library, and 2-car attached garage. As I indicated earlier, the lot area does not meet the required lot area. They need a variance, requirements 36,670, and the existing is 21,058. And typically in these cases, we suggest that the applicant contact adjacent property owners to determine if they would sell any property to lessen or eliminate the variance, or in the alternative, purchase the subject property. They're requesting C1 consideration for this variance. Glad to answer any questions you might have. That's my memo.
is everything on the municipal website that came in? There was only 2 items on the municipal website. I'm trying to look and see if our packet has more than that.
I know they submitted full plans for the house and all the required.
Yeah, they're in
accessory
there.
maps,
They're in there.
the area map.
Yeah, they were there. It looks like, let's see, Snowden. I don't think your memo was in there. I think there was, well, we got 3 exhibits. I think there were only 2 there. I just want to make sure everything was that was applicable was on the website. All right, are you comfortable with this, Mr. Berger, Derek, or Karen?
Well, I'm assuming if the concern is that not everything was submitted to the board, I'm assuming tonight, Mr. Kennedy can put them up
Oh.
on the screen and make them exhibits or.
Perfect, that's fine. I just,
From a completeness point of view, the application submitted all the required documentation.
okay. All right. Okay, so Mr. Kennedy, will you be presenting this?
I will, thank you, Mr. Chairman. If we could move over Peter and Maggie Furness from an attendee to a panelist. They'll be providing the testimony this evening. I'll just also note, we did, this homeowner worked with us to send essentially copies of the plans to all of the neighbors as well, for additional explanation about what was going on along with our notice. But as Mr. Bridger said, we are Mr. Classic C1 hardship variance. Their lot that they purchased is undersized, essentially always has been, has had a home on it, and we'd love to have one on it again. And they have not a lot of options, and they've exhausted all of them. You'll hear, we showed you'd have to actually assemble property from multiple owners to get enough to, and actually may not still have enough to have a conforming lot here, but they did, you'll hear, seek that from them, and there was, as there usually is not, interest in selling. So if I believe, I still see Peter and Maggie on as attendees. I'm not sure if they've been moved over to panelists yet. Here we go. So Peter, if you can hear us and turn your camera on as you kind of rematerialize on this side of the Zoom. There we are. Thank you so much. I'm going to ask before we start if you could be sworn in before we start on any testimony tonight.
Sure. Is Mrs. Furness going to testify? She
could. She's here. So why doesn't she? She'll move over.
Okay. All right. If you would both raise your right hand, you swear or affirm your testimony this evening will be truthful.
We do.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. So Peter and Maggie, just want to very briefly introduce yourselves as Princeton residents, and then we'll get started talking about the variance we need tonight.
Sure. So we've lived in Princeton since 2006. And we live right now at 44 Wigan Street. And we are looking forward to moving to this new neighborhood. Snowden Farms Lane is a really kind of unusual spot in town. It's kind of a rural gravel lane in the midst of the town, and we were felt very lucky to have found a spot on it. we are planning to build a modern style house, which you'll see when Ryan pulls up the presentation. I worked in the power industry for many years and am very focused on environmental issues, and we both are. And we are try to make every effort to make this as environmentally beneficial a property as possible. It's going to have R35 walls and an R50 roof. You'll see it has a rather unusual profile, part of which was in order to get the roof to sit at 40 degrees to the southern horizon to get maximum exposure for solar panels. We'll have air source heat pumps. It's not a passive house, but it only takes 4 tons to heat a 3,500 square foot house, 4 tons of cooling capacity. Yeah, we're just very much looking forward to being good neighbors.
Well, thank you so much. So I'm going to share my screen as we normally do. I'll ask that these few slides be marked as our one exhibit A1. And we'll just talk through the variants that we need. First, Peter, thank you. You gave us a kind of a background of this unique neighborhood, but here's the clip of the zoning map. That's the arrow pointing towards your property there on Snowden Lane. Next, again, this is a piece of the tax maps stitched together. And I guess that lot 13 with the blue arrow is your lot, but then that piece of I'll describe it as a neighbor's flag of lot 15, that's Snowden Farms Lane. That's how you access the property.
Correct.
Again, here, the next slide is a area map. You can kind of start to see where this is in relation to Snowden Lane and the surrounding properties, and that Snowden Farms Lane driveway situation. I want to point out here, again, the only variance that we're looking for here tonight is the pre-existing condition for their lot area. About 3/4 acres required. We're just under a half an acre. But I also want to point out where we're getting rid of a variance. The furnaces are doing a lot of neat things environmentally with the house, but we're also removing a good amount of impervious surface. So currently there is a variance condition on the property. We're removing more than 7% of the coverage as part of this project. So Peter, I'm gonna, I guess, walk the board through. This color-coded map shows in blue where their house is or will be. The red lots behind them are potential places they could seek extra land to become compliant. However, there's not enough, those are not big enough to give any. They would become non-compliant themselves if they were to sell any. On either side, the yellow are slightly more compliant. However, neither themselves, neither 252 or 260 themselves has enough extra land to be compliant. Peter, you reached out to them, particularly the one at 260, and they were not interested in selling?
Yes, I did. I reached out to 260. They have an acre. I was hoping to get a 1/4 acre from them. And if I had combined the 1/4 acre from them with 0.2 acres from the folks at 252 Snowden, we would have been just at 0.75. But the owner of 260 Snowden told me that he liked owning an acre. So we weren't able to make a deal.
Mr. Kennedy, was that a written offer, or is this?
It was. Correct.
Okay,
We have that documented by email as well.
okay. Is that something that was put on the website, or is that something
No,
that?
it's not, nor do we have I don't think we have a copy of it. I mean, I could probably pull up the email, but happy to submit it afterwards if you'd like, but as far as an exhibit goes,
Well, that's normally what we do, just so that we have it in the record. So, yeah, I think we would need that.
All right, so as a condition, I'll provide you a copy of the email rejecting the offer.
Yeah, it was actually an oral proposal, but that was then
Confirmed in writing by email.
was confirmed in writing. So.
I'll also note, though, that they wouldn't actually have even had enough land to sell us to be conforming, but
That is true.
Next, I mean, that's the story of the variance, regardless of what was going to be built here, but we thought we'd show the board, and because it is both a neat and interesting house and a very interesting situation, I suppose, with this lane that we figured there'd be some questions about. Peter, if you guys just want to walk us through, starting maybe from the top right, which is the view from Snowden Lane down Snowden Farms Lane, right?
Sure. So yeah, you can see the Snowden Lane access point. So it's essentially if you drove down Abernathy away from Littlebrook School and crossed Snowden, you would get to this spot. So if you've ever driven there during school days, it's right where the crosswalk is, where the crossing guard stands. So you'd go into the Snowden access point there, as Ryan has titled it. And then the existing house, which has already been demolished, is sitting there at Snowden Farms Lane looking southeast. You can see it was a single family house, but it had an apartment. That's that second floor sitting on top of the garage. And then actually within the property, I guess we can look at the Snowden Farms Lane looking northwest. That's just further, you see where that pole is. If you go to the right, you go to the other two properties down Snowden Farms Lane. If you go to the left, you go to our property. It used to be on a separate lane, or it still is a separate lane, but it doesn't really have a separate name anymore. It used to be called Green Shadows Lane, but now it has no name now, that driveway. Property view looking northeast, that's within the property, that's the existing, or the old house there, looking towards the lane. So kind of from the further end of the property. And then the property view looking south, that's again looking towards the lane. Actually, I'm not entirely sure how that one is oriented. One of the neat features in that one, though, is a massive elm tree that is on our property that we were excited to acquire. Not a lot of elms around these days. So I think one other thing that we're doing, which I didn't mention before, is that we're reducing the impervious cover, but we're also incorporating a rain garden to incorporate to hold all the the water, the storm water that does come through our house until it can settle into the ground. So yeah, so those are those pictures.
All right, so next on the left is the existing site plan, driveway, home, and the right, the proposed home. As Peter said, they're able to save. We're not going to be doing anything with those existing mature trees that were there, and importantly, you can kind of tell by the increase in green, but the numbers from the plans really show it's more than 7% reduction in impervious coverage. Next, we've got some photos from the plans of the project as it was designed. Peter, this is one of the profiles here that show that sun-catching sawtooth roof design, if I have that correct.
That's correct. Yeah, it'll have a standing seam roof, and all of the southern facing, the southern faces will have solar panels on them. All three of them.
A couple of other elevations as well. So that's it for our presentation in bulk. Karen or Ms. Casey, if you'd like, I have that other, if you want me to just put it up now and enter it as Exhibit A2, the written rejection.
Sure.
If you'd like.
That'd be fine.
Let me apologize. It's going to jar your screen while I switch sharing here. So here's A2, which is a email forwarded to me eventually, but between Rob Gorey, the owner of the property next door, and Peter Furness, that confirmed by email earlier this month the rejection of the offer that they had made actually back this summer. I'm happy to provide a full copy of this as
Okay, that's fine. All right.
and so again, with apologies that me stopping sharing will jar your screens again. Want to thank you. We're certainly here to answer any questions that the Board of your professionals might have, but thank you for hearing them tonight. And I also want to thank, they've been working on this house for some time. Interestingly, had this been in the borough, we wouldn't be here. There's a provision that otherwise conforming homes don't have to go through this process for existing lot area variances or nonconformities or the township, so that doesn't apply. They had been working for quite a while on this, and much appreciative of staff for getting us on this month, particularly since they've been kind of working at this home for quite some time. So again, want to thank everyone here tonight and for listening, and for Derek and the construction folks for helping as they've tried to figure this out.
Yeah, we want to echo that, and thank you to the board, and thank you to Derek for pushing this along in terms of getting the variance. We're very appreciative.
Yeah, thank you. I did notice an error. I think it must have just been a typo in the document with Mr. Kennedy with your cover letter, page 4 of that package. It's the third page that has all the zoning required. Well, where it is lot area, zoning required, existing, and proposed. Somehow 1,000 square feet got disappeared, but I think it should be 21,058 square feet in both existing and proposed, from what you said somewhere else. Do you know where to look?
I'm not sure what you're looking at, but I agree with the numbers. And if there's one that says 20,058, that it would be incorrect. It's 21,058.
I don't know how important it is that be correct, but I noticed it.
This is in the application or on one of the
Yeah,
plans?
it's the application.
Okay.
I saw the same thing, Eve. Good catch.
This is when we were able to file this one within about 6 hours of receiving it. So apologies, but we were able to race to the counter. So thank you. Good catch there.
Oh, I understand. I just wanted to make sure that wasn't complicating in some way later down the road.
Okay,
So are
board
we making
members,
other comments or?
yeah, please, Mr. Kennedy, are you done with your presentation now?
We are. Thank you so much.
Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Furnace, you're comfortable?
Yes, we are. Thank you.
Okay, board members, any question of the attorney or the applicant? I just have one minor question. On the garage in the front, the door for the garage, the vehicular door, is on the, let's call it the inside of the property. What is, just out of curiosity, on the street side, set back from the wall, is a panel? That's not a door, is it? I'm looking at the drawing and it shows the wall on the street side of the garage that has a graphic indication that it's not, the facade has got an indentation in it. Is that a different material or is that a door?
It's actually a door. So we have a little Airstream trailer, and there was no real way to get the trailer to because you have to.
You can't bend it around that way.
You can't bend it around. So the solution was we'll pull it in next to the garage, and then we'll pull the car out. But use the surface. The surface doesn't matter because we're not going to use it very often. So it'll be landscaped. It's not going to be pavement. But it will be just allow us to get the car back into the garage and back out to the other side.
No problem. I'm okay with that. I have a question. Derek, since that is a front-facing garage door, are we going to have, is that a neighborhood character issue?
No, because this lot is odd. It has an easement that goes to the Snowden Lane, and I relied on the previous zoning interpretation of where the front lot was, which basically runs parallel to Snowden Lane. So that's how the previous house was zoned. So I honored the previous zoning. So the front would face Snowden. So that's actually the rear, and it complies with the neighborhood character.
No
But it
problem.
did-
I just wanted to
I'm
make sure.
scratching my head as well as you are, because that ordinance drives me crazy sometimes.
I just wanted to make sure from a housekeeping standpoint, we don't have any issues. Okay.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, that was my only question. Board members, I'm sorry, any other questions or any?
I have
questions?
one quick question.
Dave?
Is Snowden Farms Lane maintained by the municipality?
No, it's a private lane.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, I was gonna say that I think that the house and the whole concept is wonderful. I think it's really interesting, and I think that the energy approach is definitely commendable. I know Joseph Weiss. I had one question. I was just looking at the rain garden, and I know Joseph's wife, and it says in the rain garden, uncompacted soil for the base for the rain garden, and that's really not the appropriate soil mix for a rain garden. So I would maybe make sure that that is designed with the appropriate sand and compost mix versus just regular soil, because that will clog up and won't serve the purpose.
Yeah, I actually am not sure that Holly has had a chance to even look at this yet in terms of how that was that cross section that was prepared of the rain garden. So we'll certainly make sure that she is consulted and gets her 2 cents in.
Okay, I didn't think that would slip by her, but when I looked at it, it didn't look right to me. So
okay, okay, thank you.
Good enough.
Good comment, Jim. Okay, any other questions from the board right now? Okay, hearing none. Mr. Kennedy, I'm going to open this up to the public. Do you want to say anything else or?
No, in the interest of time, I'll just thank you guys. Much appreciated.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm going to open this up to the public. Claudia, has anybody indicated they'd like to speak to this?
There are no hands.
Okay, good. All right, give it a couple of seconds here. Okay, we'll close the public portion of the hearing. Again, Mr. Kennedy, now we're going to go into executive session.
I'll just note very briefly, again, thank you all for hearing us tonight. I want to thank Derek and staff for getting us to this point. This is your classic C1 hardship variance. There's nothing that they could do to fix this aside from zoning this property kind of out of existence. I do, like, I love when people hire me to do work. I kind of, on their behalf and everyone in this situation, would love for the municipality to adopt the borough's rule in the township. I don't, cutting off my nose to spite my face, but I'd rather not be here and them not have to come. So thank you.
No problem. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, board, we're going to go into executive session. Are there any comments, questions? Or if none, would someone like to make a motion?
I'll move.
Pretty
for Stein.
Okay, Michael, did you want to say something?
No, pretty straightforward. I'll second it.
Okay, very good. Is there any question on the motion? Okay, if not, Claudia, can you call the roll?
Ms. Coulson? Ms.
Yes.
Coulson?
Yes.
Mr. Davich?
Yes.
Mr. Floyd?
Yes.
Mr. Shriver?
Yes.
Mr. Stein?
Yes.
Ms. Donna?
Yes.
Chairman Cohen?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Go forth and build.
Yes.
Thank you.
Looking forward to seeing it being built. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank
Have a
you.
good
all.
evening.
Thank
You too. Okay, it is in fact 10:40, and we have one application yet to go. Do you want to hear this tonight? Because I believe we're not obligated to start a new application after 10:30. So,
Correct.
board members, do you want to hear this tonight, or do you want to defer it?
Carry it.
Is there any way we could start it and stop at 11? I mean, it's up
Fine
to you
with-
guys, but we have 4 cases next month and we'll probably have 4 the month after that, if not multiple meetings, but I defer to the board. Just wanted to put that.
If I could just to add to Eric or Derek's request, there is at least one. We went to HPC as a courtesy review and did have some potential changes, and if we could at least maybe show that, it may allow us to get some direction rather than maybe coming back next month and hearing that we should revamp and go back to HPC again.
I'm in favor of us at least going till 11. Even though this is not my best time of the day, shall I say.
Okay, so just to point out, so that would mean then, well, I guess we have everybody here tonight except Harlan. So if he wanted to participate next month, he's going to have to listen to the tape then.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay, all right, well, let's begin. It's 10:41, so it's, okay, this next application is case Z 22-251. 37 Wigan Street, says units 1, 2, and 3, block 28.02, lot 34.02, CO1-CO3. That's the zone. I
condo, yeah,
believe.
they're condos.
Okay, so Karen, is everything in order?
Yes, the noticing is in order for tonight. Correct.
Okay. All right, Derek, can you read your memo, please?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Sorry.
You're welcome.
Application has been filed with the Princeton Zoning Board by 37W Condominiums LLC seeking a minor site plan approval and a D variance subject to NJSA 40:55D-74 for a floor area ratio that exceeds the maximum allowable, and bulk variance relief for a reconstruction of a 3-unit multifamily residential property on 37 Wiggins. Property is located in the R4 zone of the former Princeton Borough. And it's bordered by Wiggins to the north and residential properties to the east, south, and west. The existing property is a 3-story framed building, consists of a 3-unit condominium, and it was damaged by a house fire in January 2022. The applicant proposes to reconstruct portions of the basement, first floor, and second floor while demolishing and constructing a new 3rd floor and roof. Proposed building will consist of 3 units, 1 on the 1st floor and 2 units on each half of the 2nd and 3rd floors. Additional building modifications include the construction of a new front porch overhang and a new 2nd floor balcony. Several checklist items have not been included by the applicant. Staff understands the applicant intends that these items are not applicable, and staff agrees that these items do not apply to this application. The applicant has requested a waiver of checklist item A5 is a fire protection plan, and staff supports the waiver of this item. The applicant has coordinated with the building department to review the Uniform Construction Code's fire protection practices. The floor area ratio variance required, the maximum amount permitted is 45%, which is 3,299 square feet. The existing is 58% or 4,245. And the proposal is for 61% or 4,443. The board's familiar with this variance. The applicant needs to show that the not that the site's peculiarly suited to have this additional FAR, but that it can handle the additional FAR without any detriment. It requires 5 affirmative votes. There's numerous bulk variances. The lot area variance requirements 9,000, existing 7,330 square feet. The side yard variance, the combined side yard requirements 30, existing is 9 feet 10, proposed will be 9 feet 10. This is an existing nonconformity, but the building's being reconstructed pretty much on the existing foundation. Section 17A 258, smaller side yard requirements 15, the existing 3 feet 5 inches, and the proposed will be the same. The parking requirement for this structure is 5, the existing is 3, and the proposal will stay the same at 3. The height to setback ratio requirements 3 to 1. The existing is 12.4 to 1, and the proposed is 10.95 to 1. And the impervious coverage, the max permitted, 49.5. The existing 60.1%, and the proposed is 60.4. That's a 25 square foot increase due to the expansion of the front porch and rear balcony. Couple of the site plan issues, we asked that the applicant provide details of the proposed exterior light to ensure light trespass meets the code requirements of 17A 365.1. Regarding the driveway connection, we asked that the applicant address the driveway encroachment upon the neighboring property and enter into an easement agreement if any portion of the driveway extends beyond the property line. And then on-site circulation, the applicant is proposing a bicycle charging for 6 bicycles in the basement, and we would just request that the electrical bicycle charging area be reviewed by the fire official and the code official and be equipped with the appropriate smoke alarms and fire suppression equipment. The utility service are all above, the electric's above ground now. Obviously, the gas and water and sewer are below ground. We ask that the applicant consider installing the underground service for the reconstructed building for the electrical service. And disposal of waste, the solid waste and recycling were previously located at the northwest corner of the building within the smallest side yard setback on the lot, which is 3 feet 5 inches wide. The applicant has indicated waste and recycling will be located at the same location under the proposed development. And we ask that the applicant should consider an alternate waste and recycling storage location that is not immediately adjacent to the neighboring properties. And the applicant should address the management procedures and the required amount of storage receptacles for the waste and recycling. The roof plan does feature solar panels. The details of the solar panels at the rear portion of the roof, we request that they be provided for review by the zoning officer and the engineer. Staff comments, the applicant's engineer shall submit a construction cost estimate for the installation of all site improvements, which shall be reviewed and approved by Princeton's land use engineer in order to determine the amount of required for inspection fees. And there's some approvals that may be required. Any approval of this application should be conditioned upon Mercer County Planning Board approval, the DNR, Raritan Canal Commission, and the Princeton Sewer Department, if they're applicable. That's a brief synopsis of my memo. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Board members, any question of Mr. Bridger? Okay. Ms. Kim, do you want to summarize your memo?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as Mr. Bridger stated, this property sustained significant fire damage in 2022. And the applicant is in the process of reconstructing the dwelling structure, which contains 3 condominium residential units. The proposed reconstruction of the building does involve significant exterior alterations with a more modern architectural flavor. This application came before HPC on December 19th. It falls within the suggested Central Residential Historic District, and HPC reviewed this application for purposes of sharing their recommendations with your board concerning the appropriateness, in their opinion, of the new exterior appearance of the building. To them, it appeared that the fire damage occurred mostly on the exterior of the 3rd floor and roof, and most severely on the rear south side and east building elevations. The applicant proposes demolishing the 3rd floor and roof and removing the exterior staircase on the rear of the building and constructing a covered porch with a slightly enlarged front entrance. Existing windows will be replaced and enlarged, which are single windows with twin size windows, and the single entry door will also be replaced with a new double door. The existing exterior clapboard will be replaced with stucco, which will be light in color, and the 3rd and rear floor addition will be clad in the dark gray color, which gives a 2-tone color at the end. There is a vertical element design from the roof ridge to the 2nd floor on the east and west elevation, which is constructed of boral, and that will be a very dark gray color. A 2nd floor balcony will be installed off the rear elevation, and a new aluminum spiral staircase will replace what is existing there now. HBC unanimously supports the improved interior layout, and typically they don't comment on the interior. However, because what was done is the upper floor now 2 units, which used to be one on the 2nd floor and one on the 3rd floor. Now the 2 units will have access both to the 2nd and 3rd floor. And with that, they are able to reduce the size of their rear access, which is the exterior staircase. So it's only needs to access the 2nd floor, which will be a new balcony there. With that, they supported that because that actually allows better visibility from interior for those condominiums to their backyard area. HPC was unanimous and believing that the reconstructed exterior facade will result in the dwelling structure having appearance very different from the other houses in the neighborhood, especially the adjacent property at 39 and across the street at 38 and 40 Wiggins. The existing gable roof will be replaced with a side-facing low-pitch gable roof and a flat roof over the new front entrance. The majority of the windows, as I said, which are single 12/1, will replace with twin 12/1. HPC does not object to architectural modern design or style. However, they believe the collection of these proposed improvements will alter the building enough that will no longer have a residential feel or relate well to the other residential buildings along the street. They do provide some suggestions for your board for their consideration. They asked eliminating this existing steep front-facing gable, which is a prominent feature of the building, should somehow be retained, either on the existing roof or perhaps even over the covered porch. And we understand the applicant is asking for a variance, and they felt that the roof itself as exists isn't variance. However, HPC felt that it was existing feature that was worth putting back in. And they also felt that the 2-tone color, if they could make that blend in a little bit better and not such a strong differential, they felt that that would also be an improvement. And they felt that the windows on the 3rd floor were no longer harmonious with the windows on the 1st and 2nd floor, which is the existing building that's going to be retained. So they felt with these improvements to the building, these recommendations, they felt that the reconstruction would better fit the streetscape. So that's all the comments I have. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Board members, any questions for Ms. Kim? Okay, Mr. Kennedy, are you presenting this?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, well, we have a few minutes.
Yes, I'll name that song in 3 notes. We thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, particularly for even just starting this tonight. I know we knew in advance that it was unlikely to be heard, and we appreciate you giving us a few minutes. If we could, while I do a brief summary, our architect Marina Rabina is waiting as an attendee. If we could bring her over. But as Derek and Elizabeth noted, this is a fire damaged 3-unit existing building on Wiggins. There are a series of existing nonconformities in the process to rebuild this, and the approvals that would be needed to rebuild it. The owners, and when I say owners, I mean all of the 3-unit owners together have joined in this application. I've looked to modernize it, and I'll just say, and my hope for tonight is we can at least even show you that, you know, we heard HPC's comments, and we took some time in the last month thinking about how to address them, and that we feel that we're willing and able to address those. And my hope for tonight is that we could see them and at least have a quick understanding that we'd be prepared to address HPC's comments for the board when we get back here next month. So Marina, I see you've turned your microphone on and your video. If we could quickly perhaps swear you in.
Sure. Do we have, is your audio on? Ms. Rabina, it looks like.
Yes, I got
there
it.
you go. Do you
Got it,
swear or
got it.
affirm your testimony this evening will be truthful?
I do.
Thank you.
And
We'll
I know
accept Ms. Ravino as an.
Thank you.
expert in architecture.
And if you want to, I know we've got, you know,
Share screen
here. If you want to share your screen, and we can, we'll have one exhibit for this evening, A1, but we'll just quickly show you this property. You know, the literal hardship of the fire and what we're doing to rebuild it and get these units back online for the community.
Ryan, should we skip to the comparison between?
I
what
think
we've-
so, if you could.
Absolutely.
So
should I briefly describe?
please do.
So our situation is, as you could see, the existing building on the left, and the 3rd floor is burned on the interior and needs to be taken down and replaced. When we originally designed this building, we worked really hard to make sure that we do not need an FAR variance and comply with all the zone regulations, and submitted the project. And within a couple of days, the regulations on the attic changed, and our attic became not compliant. So we sort of, first we had a fire, then we had a zoning change. So the reason the design was designed that way was to make sure we don't have an FAR variance. However, because of the change now, it is non-conforming. So when we appeared in front of the HPC, we explained our situation, and they provided the comments that Elizabeth very nicely explained. So now that we do need the variance for the upper floor anyway, it is less critical that the front portion of the building remains low. So we are able to introduce the gable back in the way that the HPC was implying that it would be important. So the back of the building remains basically as presented, and HPC was very favorable in our design. Their comments was to eliminate the 2 contrasting colors and make them blend in together. So we have a light sort of tan color for the main body, and then we felt that it would be a slightly darker color for the upper portion and formerly the staircase, the enclosure. And that would be to identify the portions that are effectively new as opposed to the portions that are remaining. And then on the front, we would reintroduce the gable as per the HPC suggestion, and they were suggesting to have the gable on the front and the gable on the porch, which we worked to incorporate. And then they suggested to have more coordinated relationship between the upper floor windows and the main body of the house windows, which is what we did. Was there something else, Ryan, you need me to address really quickly? But we do appreciate so much you hearing our project, because these guys have been waiting since January 2022 to get this project back into functioning building, and it's a real hardship.
Thank you, Marina.
Should I stop the share or keep the?
Just let me just note, the floor area variance is, I'm not going to say de minimis, but it's about 200 square feet, some of which is the front porch. We agree with HPC and I think the town's master plan that the addition of a front porch is important on the look of this house as it addresses the neighborhood. Unfortunately, with a 3-unit, you do not get a credit for front porches, so that's some of our floor area variance comes from adding the front porch. But we wanted to at least plant the seed or show that we've done some additional work to address and believe that we'll be able to work with the excellent recommendations from HPC as we present this more fully next month.
Okay. Now, these drawings will be presented, they'll be formally submitted to the zoning officer?
They can be. I'm often cautious of sending him lots of extra sets and triggering a new review. I'm happy to yield to Derek and Elizabeth's instructions about whether they'd like new sets. Essentially, we view them as aesthetic changes, but we'd be happy to provide review copies, provided that we're our accommodation of the comments doesn't result in us, going to the back of the line and having these folks, wait.
Well, I think it's important that these be submitted, because this is what's going to go on the website for the public to see before the hearing. So I think it's important to have the drawings you're going to present to us formally submitted, and I guess if they need to be reviewed, they should be reviewed. Because that's what you're going to present next month.
Happy to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Right. If you believe this is the better approach, then we're happy to do it. Or if you say, no, we like the other one better, then we could stay with the other one.
It's your call. It's an aesthetic issue. Personally, I think your revision is an improvement, but that's up to you.
No, that I would say even that small glimmer of comment is particularly helpful. So thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Yeah, I was wondering if Ms. Kim is still on this, and if she has an initial reaction, because quite honestly, it's the applicant's reaction to HPC. So I'd like to hear from.
Yeah,
HPC.
I agree if we can do that. Maybe you can take your screen share down so we can see it.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Does that help? Yeah.
Okay, Ms. Kim, can you comment on this?
Yes, so first of all, I really want to thank the applicant for hearing what HPC said. And I do feel that it is a big improvement. I feel that you've captured some of the concerns that HPC had about some of the important detail that ties the existing building with the neighborhood. And I believe the front-facing gable roof is one of the important things. So I believe that you really did a good job as far as trying to address their concern on that end. And also the color, to neutralize it and make it so it's not so two-tone, So I appreciate that.
Wonderful. I promised we would make good use of this 10 minutes, and I feel that we have. So I'm extremely appreciative that we had this opportunity to at least get that out there. Our fear was that we'd come back and start next month and perhaps gone the wrong direction, and we'd be 2 or 3 months delayed. So again, thank you so much for indulging us for these 15 minutes. It was a very good use of our time, and we're very thankful.
Okay, Michael, was that explanation?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's absolutely good. It's HPC's initial comments that got reacted to, and I give more status to their opinion than my opinion on the changes, so.
Okay, very good. Okay,
Hey,
all right.
Steve, how much more has to be presented on this?
Quite a bit.
Approve it.
Yeah.
Got all the
Hopefully
conditions to
It's a D
discuss.
variant, and we have quite a bit of testimony on that part of it. And
Okay,
welcome to approve it now without that, but perhaps that's not the best idea.
just checking.
Okay, all right, so any other questions that any board members have that you think you need answered this evening, or can we adjourn and then bring this back up? Derek, this will be heard in February?
Yes, sir. First
Okay.
case on the agenda.
All right, will this be the
All right,
first
so
application?
just for the, yeah, just so anybody watching really understands, the application will continue then. What's the next meeting date? February
22nd.
22nd? All right, so if anybody out there is watching, there won't be additional noticing. It's just going to continue on February 22nd.
And the website, the municipal website will reflect the resubmitted drawings.
So
If
we
you could
will-
just, excuse me,
Yeah.
submit a copy to staff. Thank you very much.
Will do.
Great. So the plan of action would be to reflect the revised documents based on the HPC comments, submit them to staff for publication, and continue with that. Is that correct?
That's what I'm hearing.
I
Excellent. Thank
didn't
you.
quite understand that, but they effectively will be resubmitted and I assume reviewed. And then we'll go on from there. Is that right, Derek?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay,
Wonderful. Appreciate everybody's help so much. Thank you.
no problem. Thank you all. Okay, so that'll be a wrap for this evening. We're adjourned and we'll continue on this application and the others on February 22nd. Okay.
Thanks,
you.
everyone, for
Have a
staying
good
till
evening.
11.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Right.
Get
Happy
home
New
safe.
Year.
Happy New Year.